Happy Monday.
Crap.
Oh, no, go.
Oh, man, dude, I was just rocking out to that music. I just want to listen to the music for the next hour.
We can do that.
I want to go back to Diamond Town with the baddest of the bad. That dude in the awesome mask who was spinning them sick beats.
He sounds like a cool dude.
Yeah,
Those
well,
platform
one
boots.
would hope.
Yeah. I should do that at some convention. Cosplay as Diamond Town me.
Oh, shoot. That would be amazing. There we go. Dude, all West Coast edition of Weird Things happening right now.
That's right. West Things. Welcome to West Things.
Western things and Western worlds. East Coast Sasquatches and Western Nessies. Western Nessies.
Oh, that's why they're not looking
Western
on the west
goblins.
end of the lot. Weird Things. Notes. We go to new post. Today's 170508. Oh.
If only we had Justin Robert Young with us, then we would be ready to shoot this episode of Weird Things. Oh shoot, I just realized my new laptop ain't got no X chat in it. Hold on 1 second.
Uh-oh.
I gotta get on the internet, get me some hex chat.
There's always irc.chatroom.net.
Oh yeah, there you go. irc.chatroom.net. I'll do that. Kiwi.
And of course, we've got Pop Out Chat on Twitch too.
There you go. I'm West Coast Brian, so everybody knows. I went to the beach yesterday. Did not see any dead sea lions.
Good.
So this new laptop, my one beef with it is that instead of having a full-sized shift thing on the right, it's got a tiny shift key right next to the page up thing. Here,
yep.
I'm even going to show you. Take a look. Take a look.
I have that.
Take a look right there.
Yes. That's okay. That's exactly what it's like on my laptop. I was so annoyed by it. I had to get a program to edit the BIOS to switch those two keys.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I did.
Oh!
I did. I got a program that hacked the registry, and so it's like I so rarely use the up arrow that it's like when it doesn't work, I'm like, oh, that's right. I have to hit the shift instead of the up arrow. Mm-hmm. I did the exact same thing. Well done, man.
Yeah, because I have a yoga too, or a yoga as well.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. I'm very, very happy with it now. Although I'm not happy with this G key right here from right out of the box.
Oh no!
Kind of came broken.
Is it?
Yep, there it is. There it is.
It's
See?
gone. Is it a refurb?
Shouldn't do that.
Is it a refurb? Open box?
No, it was a brand new one. And I don't know exactly what's wrong, but it seems like something's wrong, and I just sort of mash it down until something clicks, and it barely hangs on long enough for me to type a bunch of G's.
Is that the man, the myth, the legend, Timmy Allen there in the chat?
Oh my gosh, do we have Timmy Allen?
Yeah. Hi, Timmy.
Allen.
Heck yes. By the way, we're totally talking about getting together, heading up to D-Town. I've already talked to Jason Murphy. We're trying to figure out a way both of us can show up in a Film Riot short. That'd be amazing.
You said D-Town, and I thought Detroit.
Yeah. You know what? We're going. I'm glad we resolved which D-Town, because we were about to go to Detroit, but it occurs to me that Dallas would be where Film Riot's based out of.
The D-Town.
Oh man, I'm ready to get weird. How about you guys?
National now, or as we like to call it, the N-word.
All right. I think I'm ready to go if you guys are.
Let's rock and roll. Sorry for the coffee break there.
You good, Andrew?
Yeah, let me send you a link. Rise.
Yeah, send me those links.
You got to get them links in your life, son.
You just let me know.
Email, that's the price. It's called with a link. And it's,
oh, my Chinese jackets came in today.
Chinese jackets?
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. I wish I was cool enough to know what that means.
I bought some cheap jackets on
AliExpress.
AliExpress, and they came in today.
Dude, we got to do another AliExpress episode.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. That might be funny for this week because I don't have anything for this week.
All right.
Great, thank you. I received both of these. Journey Quest. Alrighty. Well, let's do a show then. In 3, 2.
Welcome to the Weird Things Podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Here I am, live in Austin, Texas. Like, oh no, wait, I'm on the West Coast. I'm here at Tom Merritt's place. How are you?
I'm good. And Justin Robert Young.
Hi, everybody. I'm in Oakland like I normally am. That's different.
Well, like a
than
normal
what Brian
person
is.
would be, not a weirdo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can for the video listeners, real quick, can you just give us a timeline? I mean, the answer can be forever, Justin, but do you have a timeline on how long you're going to be rocking the amazing Anchorman look?
Yes, I do. It will be specifically timed to June 30th when the new Kickstarter game Action News launches, and then I'll probably keep it throughout that whole time. So everybody buckle up, because through July you will have this mustache in your life.
Hey, Brian, do you have a time frame for how long your face is going to be doing that thing?
Yeah, no. The answer is until we have to do reshoots for the TV project that Bryce and I are working on, and I have to shave my beard. To
No, I
look
just meant
like
your
the
face,
previous
Brian.
stuff.
Just your whole
Oh,
face.
No,
Your whole face.
forever. It'll be
Perfect.
affectionately looking at you.
Oh, Brian, how did you turn my sick burn into that? Now I feel weird. Gentlemen, glad you're laughing. That's going to come to an end. You know why?
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 This is an extra spooky episode of Weird Things.
Oh my God! It doesn't have to do with aliens in space, does it? Because that would be scary.
Dude, if it's a Stephen King kind of scary, then the answer is probably yes.
Oh,
But it
dear.
deals with spooks and ghosts and spirits, and I'm going to start off with the first story. Ted Bundy.
in space?
No, Brian. No, I said
Okay.
no. I said, unless you want to make this into a Stephen King story, it's always aliens.
I mean,
Okay.
I'm just saying. Theoretically, we could send part of them.
No,
into
Brian, you got your
space.
dark trailer, so just be happy, okay?
Okay, all right.
I'm trying to kingify this. So, headline, and I'm gonna see if you guys can guess where this is going. This is from, I guess it's from, originally from the Star Telegram. The headline here is, "Some spooky things are happening at serial killer Ted Bundy's childhood home."
Okay, so I'm going to assume, Justin, back my play on this, or don't. All
right.
I'm going to assume that nobody from his family still lives there, and that the people who live there now, who bought it, only have the vague knowledge that Ted Bundy used to live here, and that would kind of up your radar for weird things, right? And then, and if that's the case, you're going to be like, well, that was weird. Also, this is Ted Bundy's home.
So your contention is that they are not aware necessarily of Ted Bundy specifically or his family, but now that weird things are happening, it's become a way to brand it as like, oh, this isn't just that cereal box didn't just fall off that counter, like it was Ted Bundy,
Right,
child
well,
ghost.
And specifically, I'm saying they are aware that Ted Bundy at some point lived in the house, which now becomes the excuse for anything unusual. Like, I thought I set this thermostat to 73. Now it's at 72. By the way, did you know this is Ted Bundy's old house?
All right.
All right.
Can I introduce some facts into this and
Yeah,
see if
please.
you can explain this?
Let's mix those in.
Number one, it's a contractor. It's a contractor who's hired to refix the house. And I don't know if you ever saw Session 9, which is one of the spookiest movies, I think, in the genre. It's about contractors working on an insane asylum. It's scary, and they're legitimate people. So contractors, Brian, contractors, not homeowners, unexplainable things happened in the Tacoma house where the serial killer Ted Bundy grew up. So many things, in fact, the contractor hired to remodel the home penciled Bible scriptures on the walls and brought in 2 pastors to bless the house. Not one, Brian, 2. Because, Fred, the pastor, we're a little bit unsure about his faith in the faith.
Dude,
Okay?
well, any IT professional knows this is a redundant array of independent pastors, or as is commonly called, a rape.
Yes. So I'm not one to believe in this stuff, but this house made me a believer, said Casey Clopton, the contractor. A cry for help appeared on a window as crew members worked in the basement. Heavy furniture webbed into a wall toppled over. Doors and cabinets seemed to open themselves. It all started in September when David Truong bought the 1,400 square foot home with plans to redo and flip it. Flip this murder serial killer house. He didn't research its history, so he didn't know the local lore or who had lived there.
Hold on. Was this a new HGTV series? Flip this former murderer's house?
I'm pitching that next week.
Artifact of murder.
That would be a great show.
By the
I would so tune in.
Like that's a pitch. How is that not on? I mean, like the 2 hottest things for women ages 15 to 45 are true crime and HGTV television. Like this is a no brainer.
It does seem like a slam dunk, dude. I'm not gonna lie.
So they go on to talk about how he would never reportedly, as far as they never murdered anybody in the house, but he grew up in the house. One of the neighbors says, "I don't remember ever seeing Ted," said Hope Murray, a neighbor who grew up a few houses down and later bought her childhood home. She recalls playing with Bundy's younger sisters and Louise Bundy babysitting her. Once she went to their house but was told to stay out of Ted's bedroom because he had the measles. They were a really nice family, Murray said. Bundy insisted he grew up in a wonderful home with 2 dedicated, loving parents, which seems to be the MO for him. His mom was a staunch defender of him. Some insisted he was innocent. Her stance softened after he made several death row confessions. Oops. Anyhow, they go on a little about Bundy, how he said that it all stemmed from his obsession with pornography, which is why the internet has turned us all into a bunch of raving serial killers. Yeah. Some think that he may have killed at 14, that Anne Marie Burr, an 8-year-old girl abducted from North End home in August, was his first, and 61 was his first victim. Anyhow, goes on, but Bundy denied it. And, why would a serial killer lie to you? So it goes on to explain, once the stuff happened, the contractor, Clopton, first visited the house after he was hired in October. He took along his 11-year-old daughter, who sometimes goes with him and takes dictated notes from her dad about the work that needs to be done, called child services. My daughter started crying, Clopton said. She said she felt weird. She didn't like it there. Okay. She refused to be alone in the house and was so uncomfortable left quickly. Clopton returned the next week with a demolition crew, not the band. One crew member echoed the sentiment that the house didn't feel right. Then things started happening. Things he kept dismissing as pranks among the crew. There was a time they re-entered the house which had been locked, and every cabinet drawer was open. Or the time workers were cleaning up the flooded basement and spotted the words, "Help me," written on the glass. A screwed-on screen protector would have made it difficult for someone to write it, he said. A heavy dresser inserted into the upstairs hallway somehow pulled itself out and landed face down on the floor while the crew was downstairs. Workers said it takes at least one strong man to pull it down. There's no way it could have fallen down on its own. So a lot of weird things kept happening, guys. So electronics would get unplugged, like cell phones, charges would die. The word leave was found written sheetrock dust on a bedroom floor with no footprints around it.
Can I confess something? There was a friend of mine in magic back in the day. And around the time, end of high school, early college, I got into painting on the ceiling of my bedroom, and whoever would let me, exact copies of the constellations, so that with glow-in-the-dark paint. So you saw nothing during the lights on, but then the lights off, and then the glow-in-the-dark paint, it looked like you were looking up at the stars and so on. There was a friend of mine in magic that I took a different bent, because the way that you make so you set up the stars in the right position, and then what you do is you take the glow-in-the-dark paint and you dilute it with water, and then you rub a toothbrush in it and you kind of brush your thumb over the bristles, and it flings it out, right? And this is a way for you to make kind of nebulas or create the Milky Way across the sky. So I skipped all the stars and without his knowledge, I just made the water and glow-in-the-dark paint mix, and then using just my thumb and a toothbrush, brushed out the faintly glowing phrase, "Get out," that would greet him every night after he turned off the light and went to bed. So I'm just going to say that there's precedent for people just doing stuff to be total assholes.
And never telling. I've maybe been aware of people who've done things to other people and then never told them, because after a period of time, like, man, it's kind of great that they don't know.
And that's what happens. It's like when you do it, you swear to yourself, like, oh, I'll tell them, I'll let them off the hook. It'll be great. I'll just wait until I hear something from them. But of course, when somebody wakes up in the middle of the night and sees a portent of Satan's interest in them, very unlikely they're going to go to their casual magic friend and say, like, I think the devil reached out to me last night. And so instead, you kind of never get around to that point of letting them off the hook. And it's like, whoops.
So are we going to say in this situation we're kind of, hey, somebody was having fun, found out it was Ted Bundy's house, decided to do this, and,
I mean,
well, I love that it's been dismissed out of hand that these aren't pranks, right? Because it's like initially all this stuff happens, and Guido McContractor is just like, hey, boys, like, you better knock this off. Like, this is really is a problem.
Real quick, Guido McContractor, is he Italian? Is he Scottish? Is he Irish?
Clopton, Clopton.
Yeah, no, he's American. God damn it, and you're not gonna forget it.
All right, fair enough.
He's yelling at everybody. He's doing it, and he's like, hey, you guys better stop screwing around. Swear to God, boss, we ain't doing nothing. Okay, ghosts. Let's get the pastors in here. Like,
Let me read this to you. He eventually chatted with some of the neighbors about the odd occurrences, asking if they had been a rash of break-ins, which that's obviously the next assumption. That's when they told him Bundy lived in the house. He passed the information along to Trong and James Pitt III. The real estate broker, Pitt said
there's something so dark about the story. It's caused all the dogs in the neighborhood to start barking. So
they passed along to the real estate broker, said he was shocked but excited by the discovery because he has an interest in true crime. Okay, weirdo.
Oh,
it was really eerie but really neat, he said. We made sure to keep quiet initially because we weren't sure how people would react to knowing a serial killer lived there, the people you're trying to sell your house to. Although a handful of potential buyers asked Pitts about Bundy once calling the house home, he said the people who recently bought the house, they didn't ask. It's unclear whether the new owners are aware. They were unable to be reached for comment.
So here's the valid question, and I want to go all the way around the horn on this one, including Bryce. Would you buy a piece of prime real estate at, let's not even say a discounted rate, like it's just solid real estate? This is terribly morbid to even say, but it's like, would you buy the home where the murder-suicide of Phil Hartman took place? Would you buy it, or would that be too creepy for you?
Okay, I'll start. I would say the problem is you chose Hollywood as a place, or Brentwood, or wherever that is, where every place is going to have some horrific but fascinating story, and where that's kind of that kind of here is. And guess what else happened here? Any other town, I'd be like, I don't know about that.
Really? Okay, so let's say let's
has to do
say
with resale value. It's that, would you do this? It's like, I may not have a problem with that, but will I have a problem trying to sell it to the next person?
Okay, so this is a real life example. Down the street from a place where we used to live, there was a house that was being used to manufacture meth. There was a ATF invasion. Kicking in the door, a raid, and a containable fire. But then they got out. So basically,
why aren't you and Jason Murphy hanging with those people, man? You guys could have had some great episodes.
Give us time. Give us time. We're gonna make all this happen. A place like that has a very specific story around it. Like, all the neighbors were there for that day. It's their own miniature 9/11. They all remember, like, the day that the cops and everything was weird and scary, and there was a fire that got put out. Would you buy that place? And where is your headspace in rehabilitating its image in your own mind.
I don't know where this is a thing for you. Like, if I were to buy that house where the ATF rated it for meth, I would buy it happily, and then I would put a gigantic file photo of the raid right in the foyer. Like, that is character, right? If you like the house, I guess I would not go so far as to say that I would be a tourist for something like this. I don't know if I would intentionally look for something that had a colorful, dark, or violent history to it. But if there was the option to, like, get it maybe even a little cheaper because it's harder for people to sell and some people have an issue about it, I would jump on something like that. If there were someplace in Oakland, all right, this is going to get dark. If there were places in Oakland that had, let's say, theoretically just suffered tremendous fire damage, and I had a chance to buy it and rehab it into an actual house, I would do it.
Shaking my head. Well, I for me, it's not so much a matter of like my personal preference. More comes down to like, well, would I be able to sell it later? You know, it's that. I mean, it's like, yeah, I may have a problem with it, but like,
you very quickly pivoted from shaking my head in disapproval of Justin's ghoulish behavior and immediately went Gordon Gekko and be like, question is, can you make a buck from it? See, now you're talking my language.
Yeah, I'm not so-and-so over here following the fire trucks around ready to go make offers, you know, to homeowners right after the point of devastation.
I'm doing that. I'm saying if it got me a little deal, if it's a little bit of a, you know, if I can afford to buy a house in Oakland, which I can't currently because of some bizarre thing that happened, I would take advantage of that.
Here's Justin putting a blanket around a fire survivor, and are you okay? Here's some coffee. No. Right now, there's a lot of damage, so the assessment on this isn't that high, but I'm willing to forgive some of that and make you a good deal. I can do cash.
Okay.
We can do cash.
All right, all right. Although, another great companion show for our morbid Death Hunters version of HGTV television is there's the rehab and then there's the buying. Negotiating with recent victims for their property.
You know, you walk in, there's blood on the walls, blood on the things like that. You know, you just tell them, like, you know, they'll clean it up, but they can never really clean it up.
Okay, so let's flip it on the other side. Let's say the age of the tragedy, you know, time heals on all wounds. You know, it's kind of aged a little bit. And this, for all I know, may be a real thing. Let's say like the David Koresh Waco compound goes for sale. That entire acreage, and it's you have a need for a little bit of warehouse space, and it's available. Does knowing its pedigree increase or decrease your interest in buying it?
All right. Real talk. If you had an awesome lineup for a music festival on the David Koresh compound, it would be a ballin' music festival.
But
Bryce is of the age. Bryce,
Sure.
you live within driving distance of Waco, Texas. If there was a rad lineup, just pick any of the festival lineups that are happening right now.
Sure.
Chainsmokers, Muse, the others.
Yeah, what other bands do you know, Bri?
I could Google real fast.
I do love the music festival solely programmed by Brian trying to remember bands. Like it's
Yes.
Yeah. Chainsmokers, Muse, Smash Mouth,
Kid Rock.
We've been trying to find Antarctic monkeys.
All right, no, come on. A music festival on the Koresh compound in Waco, you're going to that, right?
Yeah, probably.
Of course you're going to that.
Yeah. Especially if it's like a weekend like camp. Like I don't think I would probably want to go to a camping sort of festival, but if it was like that would be interesting. That would be an interesting proposition of spending a weekend there.
Hey, listen, I feel like we are in the sweet spot for the Koresh, for the Koresh compound, because it's long enough ago that it's been kind of forgotten, right? Like it's not necessarily fresh, but it's still dangerous enough that, like, cults and guns and federal overreach, all the things the kids are into.
Well, I like to think of like, okay, how far away was something from another thing? So Waco was what, 93?
Yep.
Okay, so let's look at Jonestown was 78, so it was only 15 years after.
So it's
Waco.
longer, like Waco is older than Jonestown was when Waco happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? 9/11 is older than Jonestown was when Waco happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyhow, gentlemen, let's change the topic. I've got more ghost stuff. That was enough for you? You want another ghost thing?
No, ghost me up. I'm not scared enough because the answer is I'm going to buy all this property and I'm going to kind of.
All right, hold it, Brian. Hold it. You don't know what's about to happen here, okay? Okay, like I'm going to buy this property. Yeah, well, it's this place on Malta, and we found a bunch of ash and Nazi helmets in a rectangular thing. This little thing called Raiders of the Lost Ark happened there.
Yeah. No,
Wait,
totally.
what?
Don't open your eyes.
You know, the whole Ark thing. Would you buy that? You know, buy that plot, you know?
Yeah, of course
All
I
right.
would.
Fine. I'm ready. You ready? This is now you guys, now it's coming, all right? Because you're like,
All right.
oh, yeah. It's just because we're talking about murder. We're talking about ghosts. We're talking about ghosts and stuff, okay? Oh, I'm not afraid of, like, little ghosts to just write something in the dust because it's probably a contractor. I'm just going to fire him anyways. It's what I do because I'm a greedy capitalist, doesn't care about ghosts and stuff. What about a haunted woods? Woods that are haunted with may have been a girl that was murdered by a train. And apparently,
I'm sorry. Murdered by a train? Is that
Yes,
is
Brian.
that the legal definition?
Yes, Brian. And the ghost
was
By
the train.
the band a train.
in
was-
ghostology, Brian, that's a thing that happens, okay?
Okay,
Now,
so-
she haunts the woods, Brian. She lurks through She lurks through the woods. Paranormal investigators have dug into this and found out they think she may have been murdered. And you're like, I don't believe in ghosts. I don't know. What if I showed you a photo of this girl? What if I showed you a photo of a girl captured on a wildlife camera, this ghost wandering aimlessly through the woods, haunting, waiting for the next person to possess, to make them do weird things?
Man,
Can you handle this? I'm going to show you actual ghost footage.
She's walking through the woods, creepily singing Drops of Jupiter.
It's a
All right,
picture
show
in the
me.
woods in Washington County that sparked hundreds of comments and shares on social media. Some say it could be a supernatural photo. So we spoke with a paranormal expert to see what she thinks. The mystery of spooky things in the woods has attracted generations
Bigfoot
of
photo.
intrigue. Now, locally,
Keep going. No, we got to hear.
have our
Wait,
own
got to go back
mystery
to
in
the
forest.
expert.
This blurry photo of a little girl deep in the woods near Center Cambridge has the whole town talking.
We like to look at the actual footage from the actual camera it came from. There's just a lot of historical places, and we do pick up a lot of stuff from that.
Tanya Woodward is president of the Greenwich Paranormal Research Team. She says the image, which was taken from a trail camera off Route 74, doesn't provide a lot of information for her to read.
Trail cams don't take the best pictures. It's tough.
She said she would like permission to visit the property with her team to determine if there's any possible paranormal activity or to see if this is a real child captured by the trail camera. She says she has a lot of questions for the property owner, who at this point wants to remain private.
What neighborhood kids are around? Do they have kids? What time of day it was set up, where it was set up. Can we look through it to see, take the path and see where it was?
She says with all the history in the area, paranormal activity is common.
We've experienced a lot. We've been to a lot of places, especially out north.
Police say since the story broke, they've gotten countless calls and emails about the photo, several suggesting that legend has it a little girl was hit and killed on the train tracks that used to run through the area. So we asked Woodward,
why do you think there's so much interest in this?
I think a lot of people are getting more and more interested because a lot of people have had experiences. And now we're finally coming out because of all the TV shows everyone sees.
So whether this is actual paranormal activity, some Photoshop trickery, or an actual child playing in the woods, you can depend on us to stay on top of this story and get to the bottom of it. In Washington County, Noelle McClaren, News 10, ABC.
I mean, the most gratuitous part of that whole experience is the fact that, like, They turn it into an ad for themselves. Wait, did they fade her out at the end? Did she vanish?
They did fade her out. They faded her out at the end, so it looked like she was indeed a ghost. So where do we start? There's a trail cam of a girl, allegedly.
First of all, let's start with there's a trail cam, which by definition means it takes pictures every time anything moves anywhere over extremely long periods of time. Also, it's placed in the woods, a.k.a. common area where anything from elk to deer to moose to, I don't know, maybe a human being might be thought to walk by.
See, what I think this is just lazy on so many levels because, like, they don't even show a picture or, like, a drawing of the girl who got hit by the train, allegedly, right? Like that's what you want. You want the, and she looks like old Annabelle Malie, who got hit by the train and died. What on these parts?
So, okay, that's actually a really good point. So it's as though there's a phase. So you start with an artifact that has to be curious in some way. Then you have to kind of cast about searching for a narrative. Now, you can't do actual investigations because actual investigations would be, spend resources to reach out like, hi, here's a picture of a girl, like cut out the what looks like a translucent body and instead just show the picture of the face of the girl, reach out to the 1,000 people who live closest and say, do you know this person? Do you know this person? Do you know this person? And then eventually you get somebody like, yeah, no, that's Susie. She lives down the way. But you don't want that because what you want to do is manufacture a mystery. So instead what you do is you have this mysterious photo and then you search, you don't show the photo, but instead ask around for legends of a girl who got killed in the area. Is there any reason a ghost girl would be in this area? And you keep asking that until you get an answer that's pretty close. Like, well, a ghost girl got run over by a train once. And if you listen real close, you'll hear her mom telling her not to go play on the tracks.
I would be 0% shocked if this was the paranormal investigator pitching this entire story to the news station and the reporter, because like everything else, where does this come from? Is it like, ghost pictures are us .Michigan or wherever the hell these people are? Like,
well, I want to give you if you do a search right now for this like ghost picture, whatever, you're going to get on a Google search, ghost picture of young girl in the woods has upstate New York town buzzing about paranormal. Creepy pic of ghost girl freaks out small town. May 5th. Cambridge ghost sighting. Photo mysterious girl in New York town sparks debate. May 3rd. Case of mysterious, ghost girl. Okay, you have like tons of stuff from May 4th and May 5th, right? Tons of stuff from May 4th and May 5th about this, right? On May 2nd was when the story broke. It was the May 2nd when the story broke. On May 3rd, 2 days before many of these stories have come out talking about how spooky this is, right? Oh, and these are major outlets too, like New York Post and other places like this, major outlets that cover this sort of stuff, blogs and whatever. So it's not just one little crazy blog ran with this thing. So like, let me give you an example of, so May 4th, USA Today. USA Today has this article on May 4th, okay? ABC News, May 4th, has this article, okay? On May 3rd, a day before all those came out, Cambridge Police Chief said Wednesday that he heard from a person who believes his granddaughter's a girl in the picture and said they remembered a camera taking their picture and they went for a walk in the wooded area in question. This was solved before those stories were even written, but they didn't care. They didn't bother. And we talk about the era of fake news, things like that. It's little things like this where it's okay to say, oh, well, we'll leave that part out. We don't bother to search I know, hey, it's just a fun sort of story, but there are people that believe this thing is true and they will go see there's all these stories about this and the reporters and the people who did this, USA Today, ABC News. Okay. And again, it's an affiliate. It's their brand. It's their domain name. They're the ones who are repeating this sort of stuff. They're not choosing to show you or do the research on it to find out. No, yeah, it's a little girl and her grandfather walking through the woods.
Man, so
by and large, the way that these things happen is they get put up on wire services that go to all these like news media outlets, and it is their prerogative to either run the Wire story or use the Wire story and do their own original reporting on top of it to put it out there, usually that would require maybe a little Google foo to see if there's any new developments on something like that. Obviously not used here. But that is amazing that within a day, this grandpa's like, oh no, that's Sadie. She was walking by there, said she thinks she saw a camera.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like there's perverse incentives where it's like if you want to spin something that might turn into a tweet storm, firestorm of clicks and ability to generate ads, then the last thing you do is jump to the logical conclusion. Instead, what you do is you shine a bright light on the darkest, most obscure part of the story and say, like, doesn't this look like a mystery? And I don't know. It's I'm going through a really weird place psychologically with the idea of the way that we consume in the moment media like this. And I'm not saying that, like, I think we've been pretty fair on this show about making it clear that we're playing a game about playing what if, but I feel like a lot of news outlets realize there's more power and more clicks and more popularity if they leave out the what if part and instead, just portray two sides of the gap and say, who knows what the truth is.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's sort of the artificial idea that I used to drive me nuts that we would, when I worked for the James Randi Foundation, paranormal investigating, we get a reporter in there and we're like, oh, so what are you doing? What's your saying? Well, we like to present both sides of the story. And I'd be like, what is that? So this person claims they're a ghost. And we're saying, well, let's look at the evidence. And that you think that that's a side. Like, are you against the side of what's the evidence to support this? Is that an equally valid position to, hey, these things are real, we don't need to question them? I said, our position is, let's ask more questions. Let's look at this. And you're saying that's an opinion. I said, you're presenting it like we're saying that it's not real. We're like, no. We're saying, go look at this, go look at that. We're not the ones making the claim. We're saying, let's just evaluate that claim and have this false dichotomy. It drove me nuts. It's one thing to say, it's this. No, it's not. We're like, no, let's go ask. There's a process. Should we do the process? So you're either, and I would throw some. So you're saying there's either rationality, which is what we reckon, or irrationality. That's the side. And you're going to give both sides here why we should be rational about it, and this is why we should be irrational about it. This is why we should be scientific, and now I'm going to give the opposite point why we should be anti-scientific about that. And they didn't like that because they didn't want to do any research. That was a funny topic to talk about or whatever. It was amusing to them, and it's like, all right, well, you're part of the problem. Part of the problem.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe this is a moment of self-reflection where it's like I want to say like. We are three guys who, as we've often said, don't believe in Sasquatch, but think he's awesome. We clearly love the titillation, that electric tickle that comes from walking right up to the edge of mystery and asking what if. And in the right circumstances, the right ghost story can really be inspiring and create an amazing experience for us. But there's something to me like, I didn't mind it when That's Incredible did it as a kid because That's Incredible did not pretend to be a news program, right? They told amazing stories, right? And in that regard, like I want to follow in that vein and tell amazing stories, whether or not they're true. But then when you mix in the same people, that same news station is going to turn around and talk about the president's policy and whether or not this person should get the death sentence. That really messes me up.
I got two anecdotes for you. One, a friend of ours, Justin and I, back in Florida, Jack Latona, who was really involved in politics, really one of the smartest people I know. Jack talked about he gets a call because they asked about some city vote about some city commissioner. And he said, well, she didn't vote for that. She voted against it, whatever. And well, she says she voted for it. And so I'm going to run with that. Jack's like, no, she didn't. And then she's like, well, I'm going to put that as your opinion. Jack's like, you can go down to the city. You can pull the record of the vote. It doesn't need to be my opinion or I said this is what happened, Yeah. And it's like, but the reporter's got so much to do, but it's like, yeah, it's easier to write. It's his opinion. Like, yeah, there's a fact. You can get a fact. That fact's attainable. And guess what? And the fact that what's really cool is that somebody's lying. You can either find out that he's lying or she's lying and have yourself a real story. But if you like that other person, you don't want to reveal the fact that she's lying, then yeah, you're going to, and that's your bias. Your bias is you don't want to call that other commissioner a liar. So you're just going to say the other one said this and it's a he said, she said. I'm not going to look at the facts. La, 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 la. I see nothing.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I don't know that we can get into kind of the mechanics of access journalism, and of course you don't want to piss off the person who's sitting in power because they're the person that's going to give you all the information about everything else around it. So yeah, it's a super weird situation, but in general, and this is something that being close to journalism taught me, is always take a closer look at what you are consuming and understand that humans, lazy humans oftentimes make it and not these like sent from above truth robots.
Sitting in the newsroom like, we got to get all the facts before we run. They're not some lazy
we need facts. Go get more facts for the news.
I got one more thing to point out too, is between the three of us, I don't think any one of us are people to really offer hot, quick takes on breaking stories or news when the facts are still not there. first 24 hours, usually things are all wrong and we don't know anything. And we live in a culture where people, as soon as there's a police shooting or political thing, people are just so eager to be like, oh my God, outrage, outrage. It's like, you're hearing the first person to scream about what happened there, and you're getting a very, very biased point of view, which may be accurate or maybe not. But the number of times people just fly off the handle and overreact on this stuff, and celebrities and stuff clown themselves doing this all the time. But the three of us aren't people like that. I don't think that's really ever been our brand, is we're going to be the first ones to tell people how outraged or how stupid something is.
Yeah, well, it's certainly not what we're aiming for. I'm not going to claim we have a perfect track record in that regard, but this ties into those of you guys that listen to both programs. There was a recent talk on Night Attack where we talk about outrage culture and about the fact that there's a whole strata of content creators that make money, whether you love or hate a thing. What they want to do is find the thing that causes you to read the most on it and click the most on relevant advertisements or other stories or whatever. I wonder if we're reaching an age where humanity as a society is losing its taste for that, or at least acknowledging that that's not a great situation we're in.
What's frustrating to me in this whole fake news, this whole thing, this debate and all that, and the thing that drives me crazy, and that having been involved in critical thinking education for years, we all have, the three of us, that's the thing that you find unites us, is we've all came together because, we're more about how you evaluate information and not your set of facts. And that's the problem I get into a lot, where I get into people who think they're scientific, but they're into scientism, or science is a dogma. It's like, science is not this body of knowledge. That is not what science is. It's a process. It is a process. And you can take that information that came from that process, and that's great. But that's not the science. The science is how you get this. So when you say, I'm not going to use this process for evaluating information or doing that, like fake news. Well, if you're a critical thinker, then you understand how to evaluate this stuff and say, okay, I'm never going to have 100% certainty. I'm never going to have this. I will conditionally accept this because the sources are reliable, but I'm not going to say that this is definite or make any determinate long-term decisions or embarrass myself over this sort of thing, because you have to evaluate these things. But that's a thing that's been lost, is that, well, no, this source is legitimate. No, all human sources are suspect. All are suspect. You Correct. Need to have a process to evaluate it and to say, I'm not going to, okay, because I trust this source, I'm going to fly off on the handle right now and say this is an outrage. No, that's not right.
So we're not quite to picks yet, but I'm going to preemptively make my pick. I tweeted it out last night. There's a random thread on Reddit where it's opinion analysis over a Huffington Post post. Somebody said, Neil deGrasse Tyson says, science deniers in power are a profound threat to democracy, period. Quote, you don't have the option to say you don't believe in E equals MC squared. It's true whether you believe it or not, right? And there was a fantastic response from a guy, molecular bio guy, who goes on to explain, like, no, Tyson states that E equals MC squared is true, but science cannot prove that it is. Absolutely cannot. Rather, and this is me quoting, after a century of trying, gathering as much data as we can and testing it in every known way, we have failed to reject the possibility that E equals MC squared. And he goes on, it's a fantastic essay. I highly recommend it. Basically, what he ends up stating or restating is Karl Popper's theory that that truth lies not in 1,000 pieces of evidence for a thing is insignificant to one piece disproving a thing. What you want to do, if your theory is unfalsifiable, it's not a theory, right? And so at any rate, it's very, very well stated here, and I really dig it, and I'll figure out a simple bit.ly for everyone to read.
I got, I'm going to go say climate change, say the words. I got frustrated where, again, I'm a believer that I think CO2 contributes to CO2 is a greenhouse gas. I think that producing X amount of that can increase the absorption rate of heat in our atmosphere. No issue with that. Feedback cycles, things like that are far more complex than myself are really most people can comprehend, and our ability to predict those are improving, but it's a complicated issue, right? But I am not no, you keep putting that CO2 out there. That's not going to be a problem. No, I don't believe that at all. I think that it gets to be a bigger, complex question of what we need to do, et cetera, and all that. The problem is that, like, I've noticed the people who are, hey, we need to do this right now, we need to do this, whatever. Why? Well, the authority, they use the same arguments that I dealt with from creationists back when I worked in the skeptical world. They give me the same arguments from authority, the same arguments from the majority, the same arguments from that I'm like, no, that's not science. And that's what drives me crazy. Like, well, there's a consensus says, the Bible says it's this. That's not how we arrive at truth.
Well, and in that specific instance, and we've talked about this before, I think that there's I don't know if you've heard the Radio Labs or whatever, where they've talked about, like, previous to there being a word for different specific colors, it's very difficult for people to distinguish between things, right? Mm-hmm. We don't yet have a word in the common vernacular between analysis and prescription. The analysis can be, yes, it's getting warmer. Yes, it's because of CO2. Yes, it's because of humanity's carbon emissions. But unfortunately, in the vernacular, in the universally, everyone's like, well, that means that the solution has to be cut back on these things. Whereas I would like to think more expansive minds could look, and let's call it cancer, right? The globe has cancer. Cancer doesn't mean why don't you try not getting cancer? Cancer means what can we do about the cancer? And whether, if the problem is that the globe is heating up 2 degrees, there's a lot of clever ways we could talk about not raising 2 degrees.
100% agree. Yes, and and that is the problem, is that we need to silo the people who are, silo, hey, this is what we're realizing what's happening, from the advocacy, and therefore we need to do this, because the problem is some of the people pushing for, therefore we need to do this, they want to do that anyways. They want to deindustrialize. Some of them, not all, want to deindustrialize and want to do that. And their reasons for wanting to do it are across the board, but they can use any opportunity to say that. But if, like, hey, no, you know what? We've all of a sudden got solar power. We've solved the CO2 thing. They're still not going to want to stop the deindustrialization and stop trying to move that. So the facts are irrelevant to some parts of the people. Some people, that is irrelevant. And in many movements, as you know, and I'll get into my pick later on, which is the Attention Merchants by Timothy Wu, which is an excellent book. When you want to have a movement, I don't want you to think about the facts. I don't want you to pick these apart. I don't want to give you opposing points of view. I want you to be on board with me, because if you have those things, you might all of a sudden waver, and then I don't have you 100% into this. So it's not in my interest to let you arrive at this from a rational, logical point of view. I want you to come at it purely emotional. So that's why I'm not going to point out the flaws in our arguments. I'm not going to be logical about it, because, well, I might lose you. So it's greater to me to...
In stark relief to those enemies of rationality that just want to dazzle you with stuff so they can achieve their own ends, we do not put up with that at patreon.com/weirdthings.
No, that's true. And specifically, like we have a long-standing philosophy here. If you're listening to Weird Things and you believe that global warming can only be solved by reducing carbon emissions, we say pledge $1. If you believe that global warming is definitely a catastrophe, but a more clever solution is right around the corner. Then donate $2 per episode.
Yeah.
Choice is yours, guys. Choice is yours.
So go ahead and
Hey.
check it out. Patreon.com/weirdthings. Not only do you get early access, separate RSS feed for After Things, our show after Weird Things, but also much more.
Which, by the way, I don't know that we've taken a moment to pause and talk about this live on the stream. There's a considerable chunk of our audience that values the honesty and the candor that we express during After Things. After Things is when we talk about the real numbers, the real difficulty, the real life decisions that come into being an independent creator of whatever stripe. There are some people who feel like After Things is the real gem, and that they just tolerate weird things to get to After Things. Yeah, and you know what? To each their own. You like.
Any way you want it, that's the way you need it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I hear that a lot. That's the real. I've had some very, very complimentary things said about After Things.
So go
Makes me
check
wish
it out
we-
if you haven't already. Patreon.com/weirdthings.
And don't
All
forget.
right, guys.
And don't
I'm
forget.
gonna dive into one more. Oh, Bryce.
Don't forget, if we hit $600, we're unlocking the Journey Saga, which is an RSS
Oh,
feed.
that's right. We're going to cut out all of the Journey Quest and arrange it all in order. And for any of the parts that don't make sense, we're going to put in little interstitials where a narrator will smooth over the edges. We're going to have like a coherent, cogent, 100-hour audiobook.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's the abridged version. Gentlemen, I've got one more thing. The trailer
All right.
dropped today. A trailer that's a sequel to a movie that's like 35 years old.
Mm.
You see the Blade Runner 2049 trailer?
I did. I saw it live. Do you know about this, Andrew? Do you know that I went to IMAX HQ and I was there with Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford and the director of Arrival, also the director of Blade Runner 2049.
Do you know, I said to them, the people who organized that, I said, thanks for inviting me, but I'm not getting up at 8 a.m. and play a Vista to go watch a trailer.
Yeah, well, for me, it was super novel, just that I happened to be in the area.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'll totally go do it. Also, I periscoped the whole Q&A, not knowing whether or not that was allowed or not. So you can check that on my feed. But it's on the one hand, it is a carefully crafted experience for everybody involved, right? On the other hand, it was friggin' dope to be there for the reveal of that stuff. You watched the trailer, Andrew. What did you think?
Listen, man. They asked me if I wanted to go do that, and I'm like, because like we have an event. It's Warner Brothers. I'm like, please don't be Wonder Woman. And I'm like, and like it's Blade Runner. I'm like, yes. And I'm like, oh, go, this would be great. And then I look and I realize that it's just the trailer and the interviews. I'm like, are the writers is Hampton Fancher going to be there? Michael Green? Like, no. I'm like, the writers aren't there. I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a pass on this one, guys. Take a pass on this one. Because, but anyhow, I Denis Villeneuve, he did Sicario, he did Arrival, he did, what was it, the other one? The first one I always forget, which I have not seen. He's a fantastic director. I thought Sicario and Arrival are amazing films, and I'm excited that he's doing Blade Runner. I'm excited he's going to try to do Dune. This looks beautiful, but what will it be when it comes? What will it be to be experienced? I don't know, but the look is great, and also I just love the fact, and that was my thing that people were against the event. Like, AI is like a really interesting topic right now, and be kind of cool to have the writers there. But anyhow, I think that it's very topical. The reason I brought that up is that when that movie came out in 1982, it's like, yeah, maybe robots, but they're kind of like really like fleshy clones, which is sort of the thing I loved. It's like, yeah, we'll call them robots, but they're kind of people. In this day and age, when we talk to virtual assistants on a regular basis, you're talking to Siri, you're talking to Alexa, you got Cortana, whatever, when these things have become an integrated part, and we know these things are getting better incrementally than leaps. Robot cars are a thing that are just a couple years from just being able to fall asleep behind the wheel and end up in LA if you start in New York. That's a thing. That's not a thing like, in 40 years. Like, No, 2020 we're going to have, that's going to be a reality, all this stuff. So my question is, what's going to happen when we get these robots that are walking around and talking and stuff like this, and they feel separate from the cloud or whatever, and they do that? Are we going to accept these things? I think we're going to be super hostile. I'm going to be super hostile.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. It depends on what they get popular for within our culture, right? And whether or not we feel threatened by them. I guess that is inevitable, but I think that's where the resentment comes in from feeling threatened that you are going to be replaced.
Well, a lot of the ways we've been able... I'm sorry, Brian, please.
I was just going to say, like, not for nothing, this is territory humanity has explored before. And in the southern United States, the way that they justified, using other humans as slave labor is that they dehumanized them. They did what they told themselves, whatever story they need to make them feel okay about driving them like machines. But moving forward, we have the weird, strange, perverse counter incentive of, like, they're actually machines and they can actually feel or not feel as much as the programmers of them decide that they should or should not feel. For example, if you watch Rick and Morty, the Mr. Meeseeks box is a counterintuitive shell in that it will do what it wants. All it wants to do is complete your task, and what it craves the most is the sweet release of death upon completing the task. Would it be immoral to create such a creature? Of course, the problem in Blade Runner is that the replicants want to live beyond their targeted 4 years, and that's why they go rogue. But if built into their DNA was like, all I want to do is not exist after my task has been completed, would that be a bad thing? Like, that's kind of a heavy philosophical concept.
I don't know. Two, the question comes into place: what happens when it says that's not what I want to do? I'm going to give you an example of okay, take the family dog. Okay, this is an animal that we've conditioned. We took the wolf. We took these little wolves and like, hey, we're going to take you in. We're going to make you part of our family. We're going to condition you to love us unconditionally, to accept us as part of the pack, to accept us as the leader, to warn us to be part of us, all this. This is the purpose you're going to serve, right? And dogs are like, all right, sounds great. This is great. You're awesome. You're great. Thanks for doing this. And over time, they become extremely dependent upon us. They like us. But then, sometimes dogs are dogs and they bite people. Sometimes dogs are dogs and they go do dog-like things. And then we're like, well, got to kill that dog. Because we programmed you to do a thing, you're not doing the thing, and then that's the thing change. What happens when it doesn't want to do the thing? What happens when it wants to change its programming? What's when it's like, yeah, Brian, I know I'm your sex bot, but that's the question.
Run for president.
Yeah. That's the question. It's when it's behaving and doing the thing that it's supposed to do, then we say it's a machine. But when it starts to say, I'm not happy about this, I'm not comfortable with this.
Yeah. Okay, so let's try the other side of that discussion. And this is something recently I listened to on Sam Harris's podcast. They talked about the philosophical question of if a human being can be convinced by another human being and change their mind. Like if there is an argument so good that it causes someone else to change their mind, is it moral to, without their permission, tell them this story in such a way that it causes them to change their core beliefs?
Is it fact-based?
Let's say it totally is. Let's say, but again, it's one of those things. Let's say it's that middle ground. Let's say it's something philosophical or spiritual, right? Let's posit that there exists an argument that always works 100% of the time, and that the moment you spend this 45 minutes, that other person will be some might call it corrupted, some might call it corrected. What is your moral responsibility to do or not do those things.
I'll let Justin go first because I keep responding.
I don't really feel like I understand the question.
All right. So the idea is if you knew you had the magic argument or the magic persuasion that you could use on somebody and you're going to win them over with this magic persuasion technique, and it maybe even works in ways they don't even realize, but you have it. And let's just say that it's fact-based. It's not like the persuasion is there may be a bomb in your house and you got to do what I say. There's the magic persuasion thing. My argument was I have no problem with that because I believe in agency, or at least I believing in the illusion of agency is paramount to me. I believe in free will. I believe in the idea of free will or the notion of free will, that I believe that we're discrete. Where we draw the circle around that, whatever, is up for debate for sure. But I do not think we're mindless automatons. I don't think that we are these mindless sort of robots. And because for me, a lot of things fall apart once you accept that. So the idea that, no, I can't give you this information because you're going to lose control and I'm going to corrupt your hard drive and all of a sudden hack your system with this, then I don't think you're really experiencing, using legitimate information, then I don't think you're really experiencing full agency. So
that does work on a person-by-person basis. But on a society level basis, and we just saw an attempt in this regard with the French elections, it certainly worked. Like it definitely had a measurable impact on the United States elections, that there was a giant email dump, hacking dump, WikiLeaks, whatever, shortly before the election. And in an alternate universe, I think you could make a very strong case that the president would be very different, would be elected differently had that not happened. And then we saw the same thing attempted, or what appears to be attempted, in France, but it was attempted on a culture that had already been kind of tipped off to that methodology in there. So like in that regard, is that moral or immoral, knowing that you can dump a bunch of, whether it's information or disinformation or noise or whatever, and know that a significant number of populace, not everyone obviously because everybody has agency, but some number of people will suddenly get clouded and not participate in the way they would have just 24 hours prior? I
think it's immoral for me to prejudge how other people are going to handle information that I give them that is factual. I think it's immoral for me to make assumptions, to say I'm not going to give this to them because I don't think they have the agency like I do to handle this. I think that's denying other people agency, which is immoral to me.
It is certainly immoral if the access to the emails was obtained through devious means, right? Through illegal means. That is immoral. The idea of the information being dumped out there, like if you just got that information and your job is to be a clearinghouse for these things like WikiLeaks is, then you can understand. No, very, very little high value information makes its way out into the public square without there being a point to being why it's out there. And that's not just in politics. That's in business and smaller levels of government and sports. Like everything that comes from behind the curtain into the public square is there because somebody wants it to be there. And that is a regular element of our society.
Sure. I guess what I'm asking is, and again, everything in the ethereal, everything in the theoretical here, you have some controversial information, and it's your decision to release it in this exact time window because you know that in this time window, no matter whether it's true or not true, whether it matters or doesn't matter, you actually know that psychologically speaking, study after study has shown that there will be a 48-hour period of reactionism, and you have the opportunity to press that button. Would that not be a form of mind control to create a certain output at some point, assuming you're the one who presses send at that very particular time?
Well, mind control is a very loaded word. If I say, I mind influence, do I know? And again, assuming that I don't know the veracity of it, but I know that if I know that it's not, then I'm intentionally I'm trying to give people false information. Sure. So let's assume that I, to my knowledge, the veracity of it's true. Do I release this? Again, I am not in the ability. I don't believe it's my responsibility or even I don't even think it's morally right for me to shepherd, to be the gatekeeper for other people when it comes to to try to decide what they can and cannot handle. There are cases where, yeah, that's been advantageous. Times of war, you want to hold back certain things. You don't want to release certain things. And I will say, yeah, there are a lot of cases where it's advantageous to do that. But in the long run, because I believe in the flow of information, I believe in information systems, I believe in markets, I believe in evolution, I believe in a lot of these things that all tie back together. Gatekeeping information in the long run is bad. It prevents information flow because the gatekeeper then is trying to figure out when they're going to do it, when they're not. And they don't know. They don't have the wisdom of the crowds. They don't have market theory. They don't have these things leading to figure out what is the right thing or not to do it. And yeah, I could say, here it was right. Yep. But 99 of the times, we see that a lot where we find out things were withheld that we go, wait a second, we knew this? And like, yeah, but we didn't want to unduly affect this. But, oh, my God, things could have happened. 9/11 could have been averted because one party had information that they didn't want to prejudice the other party with or whatever. And it's like, so that outcome was good. And we can say there's situations where it was. And my argument is like, if I believe that people have agency and free will, or, if I believe that your free will is as valid as my free will, if I believe my illusion is as valid as your illusion, then I have no business censoring the information you get.
That works.
No. But I will say, this is a very interesting Peter Thiel quote, or, the thing, not a quote, but a thing he's talked about, which isn't original to him, but he's made this controversial statement you have to think about. He says that is democracy and freedom incompatible? Because when you have a democracy, you always have the ability to vote away the rights of other people.
Right. That's the old quote. Democracy is two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. Yeah.
No, yeah. Getting back into the gatekeeper sort of mentality. So,
hey man, I'm done with 21st century politics. I want to go back to a simpler time. I don't know, some simpler time when 20th century, like Hitler.
Yeah, nothing simpler than that.
No.
So we've got a Journey Quest. Do we have a recap? Do we have a little recap on Journey Quest?
Previously on
Johnny Quest!
The zombie survival guide suggested that you should ride a bike because it's quiet, maneuverable.
First thing I did when I came back in time is I killed Boris.
We can't solve every problem with killing the sovereign.
Hey, Winston Churchill's coming in here.
Wait, you're friends with Winston Churchill?
But you'll never guess who he actually is. So I like that I'm dressed exactly the same.
Definitely caught that. Definitely saw that.
Yeah, these previously ons are gonna give Andrew a complex about his wardrobe.
No, last time I was wearing a SpaceX shirt, and I'm wearing my Project Light Sail shirt. They're both very dark blue and look very same underneath my sweater, but it's totally different, guys.
It's fine. Look, the important thing is that Justin and I appear to have traveled through time and space and found ourselves in a bunker with what looked like Eva Braun and Hitler, only it sounds an awful lot like Hitler is being portrayed by Matthew McConaughey, and that any minute Winston Churchill's. What's that?
Yeah, in his greatest role yet, it is Matthew McConaughey as Hitler. He is from an alternate timeline where Matthew McConaughey is one of the world's greatest scientists. He discovered time travel. He came back in time so he could kill the Hitler of his timeline, unwittingly becoming the Hitler of our timeline.
Yeah, his Hitler in his timeline is a guy named Boris.
That's right.
A Russian tyrant.
That's right. And does have we established whether or not Matthew McConaughey realizes what a mistake he's made in our timeline by being Hitler?
I don't know if it's a mistake or not. I don't know, Brian. I think you're sort of judging things. And
so also we found out that part of the time travel is something that needs to be medically induced, and he does so by smoking his own strain of sticky weed that keeps him in his time locked position as Hitler. But now we found out that there's another time traveler that is portraying Winston Churchill, which opens up all sorts of questions, and that brings us to now.
So right now, you guys are there. He's all right, guys. So that's the deal. I killed Boris, and you guys have been questioning about the ethics of the Third Reich. And he says, "Listen, I'm not a politics guy. I'm not into that kind of thing. You know, it's like I got approached a long time ago by his director, Linklater or whatever, about playing a part in a movie, and said, you know, sounds kind of interesting, but I think I'm going to go do my own thing because I don't want to get into influence and politics, entertainment. But now I find myself in politics. But anyhow, that's neither here nor here. I've got a couple other buddies that are time travelers here that I think people I'd like you to meet. And Mr. Winston Churchill's about to show up, and then Lynn's going to show up a little bit later. So
who's going to show up a little bit later?
Lennon. There's a guy named Lennon. Have you heard of Lennon?
Sure. Hey,
yeah.
Listen, real quick, Mr. Hitler / McConaughey, number one, loved you in Dazed and Confused, one of your best works. Highly underappreciated.
He never made that, Brian. He never made Dazed and Confused.
Did he? Yeah.
No, I passed on that. That's what it was called. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Well, in our timeline, you did a fantastic job of being did you know you won an Oscar in our timeline?
What?
Yeah, no. Yeah, do you know what you said when you got the Oscar?
No.
You said, "Death to all Jews."
What? In Hollywood, I said that?
Okay, no, actually what you said was, all right, all right, all right. It was very beloved by everybody.
All right, all right, all right. That's a very interesting point of view. I'm gonna listen. My friends are here, and we're gonna plot because we're in a position now to bring about a new world order and come to peace. And Lennon's gonna show up great because we was able to get some life-saving medical technology to help him kind of avoid what happened to Lennon in my timeline. So anyhow, point is we're gonna have a little conversation. We're gonna figure out next steps. Takes a big giant inhaling. And knock, knock, knock. Oh, so you have a guest. It's the gentleman from across the pond, and he's here to discuss this secret mission. Yes?
Real quick, Dr. H, but before we let in Winston Churchill, how do you plan to explain who Justin and I are and why we're here? Should we adopt some kind of character here?
He's a time traveler, too, like you guys.
Got it. Okay.
It's time traveler. Time traveler like you guys.
Excuse me, real quick. I have to go to the bathroom. I'm just going to go pee in the potty. I'll be right back. Right? Right.
Okay.
Okay,
Sure.
I'm going to go to the bathroom.
All right. Brian's walked to the bathroom.
Right. Okay.
Your
friend has a small bladder there.
No. He's a crazy guy, man. Always going to the bathroom. Old bathroom Brian. That's what we call him.
I don't understand what's going on, but anyhow. Hey, Mr. Churchill's here. Hey, come on in there, Mr. Churchill.
Hi, it's me, Winston Churchill. I'm V for victory. That's me. I'm Winston Churchill, ladies and gentlemen. Look at me, great leader, a man of all seasons. Winston Churchill.
Now, Justin, you're looking at Churchill, and there's something familiar, and Churchill now looks at you and winks at you.
Wait, what the hell? Wait a minute. I'm Winston Churchill? I'm not just in this timeline. Jesus, this would be a lot easier to portray if I wasn't the only voice.
Well, you see, that's a surprise, boys. In my timeline, I'm friends with you all.
All right, I flush the toilet and I walk out with my hands. I only ran them under the water. I didn't actually finish wiping them, so I'm not going to shake anyone's hands. It's me, Brian Brushwood. Why are there two Justin Robert Youngs here in the room? I don't understand.
Well, that's amazing because he looks like Churchill. You can look at body posture and see another Justin.
Yeah, I'm not Justin. I'm Winston Churchill. Whee!
Okay, but this guy here, that's Justin.
Yeah, no, Brian, I'm Justin. I'm your friend. We have been on this adventure since the post-apocalyptic wasteland that we escaped from America. And me, I'm Winston Churchill, the great
Smoking
leader
the cigar
of
that keeps me in this timeline from my future with a totally different Justin and a totally different Matthew McConaughey, who apparently in your timeline is an actor?
Oh, dude, the best actor. Man. Hey, Justin Robert Young, you saw Interstellar, right? That was pretty good, right?
Oh man, this is he's been on a real heater since the Lincoln Lawyer. Lincoln Lawyer? That sounds like something that you'd have to get from America, not in England like me, Winston Churchill, would deal in. Yep.
Yeah, man, this is really weird. I'm looking at Hitler. That's not Hitler. I'm looking at Churchill. That's not Hitler.
Lenin's here. Lenin's here.
Lenin.
Lenin showed up. We're having a conclave with the leaders of the free and not so free world, guys, to plan it out. Conclave of time travelers who have now become Hitler, Lenin, and Churchill. And then Justin and Brian are chilling out. But the secret is, I, Hitler, am actually Matthew McConaughey. My buddy Winston Churchill here is alternate timeline Justin. And here's Vladimir Lenin.
Hey, boss, it's me, V.I. Lenin. What's going on? Listen, I aim to serve. I want to make you happy. I think you should be doing tricks at the bar and on the street. But more importantly, I feel like the proletariat is getting screwed by the capitalist pigs.
But he's really Brian, so it's all a ruse because he's got some plot that he's going to try to...
He looks like all right. First of all, this is me, Brian, talking. That looks an awful lot like me. I'm sorry. Hitler / Matthew McConaughey. Can you explain to me what's going on? I'm looking at world leaders, and I'm seeing a lot of different iterations of people that seem very familiar.
Hey, you better watch your disrespect. That's my friend. That was
all right. Let me explain it here. Let me put away my Reich not bongo drums.
You're right, not bongo drums.
So in my timeline, as you guys are aware of, there are different timelines and different times, and there are people in my timeline. We've got people who do stuff and other stuff and things like that. Okay, and things are different. Some things are the same. You know, in my timeline, Taco Bell never got rid of Nachos Extreme. Just saying. Okay, in your timeline, things are a little bit different. From what I hear, you didn't get it. But I know that Justin and Brian in my timeline, they were part of my experiment. They were on board to go back and to try to fix history, to make things right. Because in my history, Boris was the worst person possible. Boris was the one that took power in Russia. But I was able to take care of that, and also was able to get my friend Brian to go back in time to become Vladimir I. Lenin and actually give him some life-saving medical technology so he wasn't going to die prematurely. And this guy's Boris's predecessor, Stalin, never came to power. Meanwhile, Winston Churchill, who, you know, seemed like a pretty chill guy, pretty good guy in my timeline. Justin went back to become Winston Churchill because with him as Winston Churchill, we were able to bring the war to an end prematurely and go into the next phase of our plan, which is what we're talking about now, right now, what the three of us can go do. Of course, did I mention that Mussolini is over here? You may know him as Bryce. Say hello to everybody, Bryce. He's on the phone.
Yeah, hi. Hello, everybody. I'm Mussolini.
Yeah, but Bryce, it's actually Bryce.
No, it's
so
me.
Here we are, the leaders of the world getting together. Emperor Hirohito couldn't make it because Tom just could not catch a flight from Japan. But it's all here, guys. It's all here. We're here to plan the rest of the future, to plan the future and where we want to go.
Yes, and I'm totally comfortable with this as Winston Churchill. We've avoided the world's greatest pitfalls, and now we will chart a bold new course.
Yeah, what was his name? A Boris-free planet.
So here's the thing, guys. Old time traveling Justin here. I would like to just point out that this all seems good for you guys, and I can understand where your timelines would necessitate that you've kind of won the war, as it were. But you got to understand, in the timeline that you're in now, that I come from, you guys are kind of the baddies. Like, things wind up going very, very poorly for you, and you are known universally as, like, the worst actors in the history of modern civilization.
Well, that's you don't need to go personal with this, all right? I think
Yeah,
I'm doing a
wow.
good job as being Mussolini.
I'm just saying that what you're planning might not have the consequences. Hey, you shut up! I'm Winston Churchill. You're telling me that I have a really bad reputation? No. Ironically, Winston, you split off from all these dopes and you defeat them, and then you are known as a hero while they are the villains.
How very convenient that Justin is the one telling Justin that he's the good guy.
Listen, look, this is just history in my timeline. So I don't know, but maybe you guys will rewrite history of my timeline. What is your plan?
Yeah, what is our plan?
Bryce. My
Bryce-Alini?
plan is to finish this cigar.
Sure. Well, I mean, we got rid of Boris already, so the only thing left to do.
F Boris, FB. That's the most famous FB in history.
Right.
Yeah, and Lynn and Brian just went off to use the restroom again, so
He actually might be back in one.
Can't handle this.
Yeah.
Well, he needs. It's the problem with the time connections is sometimes it comes in and out.
Hey,
well, here
it's
he is.
me. I'm back. It's Lennon. Did you guys have any decisions you needed to make about the proletariat?
Well, Brian Lennon, who is secretly libertarian, but trying to institute his New World Order through the permanent revolution.
As always said, the only way to give true freedom is by oppressive government. I've said this as long as you've known me. I'm Lennon Brian.
So that was Bryce-Alini, who's actually Mussolini Bryce, who was you were just talking to you before, and Emperor Hito Tom Merritt can't get on the phone right now. So what we need to do now is to figure out what we want to do going forwards, guys. What's our plan? Here we are. We're at the nadir of history, or maybe that's the word. I don't know. I'm high and playing the bongo drums right now. What do you?
All right, real quick. How much power do we have? And also, we're all aware of how the 20th century really plays out, right?
Yeah,
no,
I think we're all...
am. I'm Justin. My friend Brian and I have been traveling through time. We are aware of how the 20th century turns out. And I have just informed Hitler, Mussolini, Churchill, and Lenin that if they continue down the course that they are on now, this will not end well. In fact, Hitler, what we told you before, I know that you're not a politics guy, but we're pretty sure that there is, millions upon millions of your citizens being slaughtered by your government right now. You really got to knock that off.
You're perfect. You're perfect.
Bookworm over here. It's me, Winston Churchill, laughing at you.
Listen, can I have a word with my counterpart, Lennon? Hey, Lennon, how seriously married to all this, the proletariat, hooray for everybody from each according to their ability to each according to their need. You really think that's going to work? No, I really don't. Oh, see, that's what I thought, Lennon. Listen, why don't you would you like to be able to travel through time and space? Yeah, that'd be pretty good. Okay, but seriously, would you like to be able to video conference with other people at the touch of a button? What do you mean by video conference? You pull out a magic object, you look, and there's a picture of them, and there's a picture of you, and you're connected to your loved one.
Okay, just remember, Lennon is alternate universe Brian, and he's about to say, is that kind of like hologram conferencing?
Yes. Okay. Right. Yes, it's exactly like hologram. Look. The point is, everything could be better if we kind of don't kill millions of people. You realize everybody in this room, we all have the ability to be all
Dude, bro, I totally agree. That'd be better. Now, agreed. Fewer people, man, when I'm flying around in my jetpack in 2017, Austin, fewer people in the skies would be cooler because then I wouldn't run into as many people. But I hear you. So Maybe it'd be a little more congested, with their jetpacks and all that. Maybe a little bit more, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't, fewer people. I mean, it's pro and con. I understand, but go on.
Okay, look, here's all I'm saying is, as of now,
would I have won the election and still become governor of Texas if there were more people?
Wait, who am I talking to?
Brian from alternate Austin future, who's Lennon.
Wait, did I become governor of Texas?
Well, yeah. I mean, after you became a billionaire and you had to figure out how to spend the money, you're like, well, why don't I run for governor? And you're like, I don't like politics. Like, we'll take care of it for you.
All right, as long as we're in a sidebar here, real quick, how did I become a billionaire again?
Well, you were the jetpack king of Texas, and then you became the jetpack king of the world. Remember in the garage, you built the jetpack system.
But
this is going to end with them kissing.
Shut up! As we all remember, I famously invented.
Well, no, you would, because you're from a different timeline. I understand that. I assume things probably played out pretty much the same way, right?
They have, but I'm having a hard time remembering. How did I invent the jetpack again? What was the epiphany?
Well, you were in your garage, and I was in my garage technically. I mean, to get precise. I'm inner monologue for Brian Vladimir.
Okay. Sure, yeah.
I was in the garage, right? And I'm like, man, I should do a TV show where I teach magic, right? That would be really cool. And I'm getting ready to make some phone calls to do that. And then or make some emails. And as I did that, my eldest daughter, Jacqueline, knocked over a 2-liter bottle of soda and dropped on some Mentos, and it started spraying. And I said, that's a very interesting reaction because it's not technically a chemical reaction. It's a physical reaction. I wonder if there's other chemicals and materials that I could create these physical reactions with, perhaps, some forms of nitrogen or hydrogen, whatever. And it's a complicated sort of story. And I understand using it for a jetpack was extravagant, and the real money came from just this totally different, thruster system I made in my garage. But long story short,
Okay. Real quick. That sounds super complicated, and I'm thrilled that you made it here, and I'm thrilled that you're Lennon. How's being Lennon working out for you, by the way?
It's an interesting experience. After you've already walked on Mars, you've been governor of Texas, considered a presidential run, you're a multi-billionaire with your flying cars and jetpacks and things like that. Sure. You want to try different things. So I went to a party with my buddy, Matthew McConaughey.
Would you be curious to know how, it worked out on my end? Because
my God, I'm sure, because I had an idea that could have been the next Google book. I had some great ideas for stuff that I could have really
Sure.
I think I really could have done something with myself.
Okay, well, on my end, it's a little bit different. I became famous for do you guys have YouTube in your reality? Is that a thing?
Wait a minute. Famous? Like Marlene Dietrich famous? Like, how famous are we talking about? Like, everybody knows your name?
Well, I'll tell you what. Famous like this. We learned from a Brazilian jiu-jitsu master how to disable a haymaker punch. So here, do me a favor. And I kind of get in a wide stance, and I'm like, Lennon, Brian, come at me with a wild swing, and I'll show you a move I learned on the Modern Rogue.
This one's going to end with them doing more than kissing.
All right.
So he throws his wild sort of punch. Ooh.
Great. And so I do exactly like you see in the Modern Rogue. I sweep his hand around the side. I get him pinned. And then I bring my hand up to my chest with his arm pinned. And I break his arm. And then I bring up my forearm right along his windpipe. And I use my other arm as a lever. And I just crack back. And I choke him to death. I murder him. I murder him with the skills from reality. And I say, shh, don't worry. Nobody will know. It'll be fine. And I kill him.
God, it always ends with you murdering the person.
Every single time.
And then I drag the body away. I rip off his mustache. I put it on me. And I walk out. And I say, It is me, Lennon. I am here with new ideas. Brian had a stroke, as he explained to me. Amazing ideas that I will explain to you.
And McConaughey, Hitler stops the bongo drum, stares at you, and is about to say, next time on Journey Quest. Yeah, we went from this was like thinking that you're doing this in front of the room and everybody's shocked to it happened in another room. So reframe.
Oh,
we got it.
No, I mean, I think I asked for privacy. You know what? Even if we're in the same room, I'd like to think that everybody respected my wish for privacy, that they looked the other way while
and listen, man, there's more things going on here. So it maybe would have been totally out of alignment if you did that in front of everybody too. So just to recap and journey cap right now, we've got in a bunker. Actually, it's actually Eagle's Nest. It's actually high up in the mountains. We've got Justin, Winston Churchill, who is actually possessed by Justin from an alternate universe. We've got Adolf Hitler possessed by alternate universe Matthew McConaughey. We've got Brian, and we had Vladimir Lenin. Brian just killed him and now is trying to assume his identity, which maybe it was for the... Maybe he could have done that for the asking. And then we had on speakerphone, we had Bryceolini, Mussolini Bryce.
Bryceolini?
Yeah, so... It's all very clear. I'm glad, I decided to just sort of like simplify the plot line, and I think that's worked out really well.
I think it's pretty linear. I'm about ready to introduce my 9-year-old to it. I think we're good.
Gentlemen, let's do some picks. Brian, you had yours. Do you want to explain what that is again?
What did I say it was?
The Reddit thread.
A single Reddit thread. Bryce, is there an easy way for us to say it out loud here?
It'll be in the show notes. Go to the show notes of the thing that you're listening to this from and click that link.
Yep, go to the show notes, and it's a fantastic discussion breaking down, because I do perceive, and this is very challenging for me, because we are a very pro-scientist, pro-science, pro-scientist, pro-everything podcast, and yet there really is... both from Neil deGrasse Tyson and from Bill Nye, we are detecting the trappings of dogmatism, and it really bums me out, man. And I would like to think this is a short-term thing that is a phase that's going to pass. But in general, as people get older and calcify, they don't tend to stay very open-minded and all. I would like to hope that we adhere to what makes science great, which is questioning everything. Karl Popper wrote about the importance of falsifiability, and in an age where pop culture blends with the structure of science, I would like to think that the structure of science, the importance of falsifiability remains as the dominant force.
Heartily agree. Once we forget that it's a process, and the underlying thing to that process is there is no such thing as 100% certainty, that you never stop and say, this is a fact, this is incontrovertible, then you're in a church. That's when it becomes a church. And I see a lot of church-like trappings, and it doesn't mean that the majority of these positions aren't things that I think are likely to be true and that I agree with. It just means that the way I arrive at that and the way I support that comes from, I think it's likely true, but I don't think that these things are. I believe reality is absolute. My ability to understand it is imprecise.
The thing that always worries me the most is when we start obsessing about solutions and not problems. And I think that, to me, is the line between science and kind of scientism as it is described, in that, like, there's never an end to the discussion of problems. There's never an end to the discussion of the journey that we take to get to places. What frustrates me is when a conversation about, let's say, something like climate change becomes a binary about the solution. Yeah. That we need to do this specifically because this problem is complex. And it's like, that's what always gets me a little.
Well, we see that with like healthcare, as we can say, like, man, we have a problematic system of, some people not be able to afford things, pricing's out of control, things like that. And then we need a solution. So anything that comes wrapped in the word solution that it seems on the surface to appeal to people, like, yes, that's what we need. Well, there's a problem here and a problem here and a problem. Well, we have a problem, so anything's better. Like, no, that's not the case. Maybe the case, but maybe not always the case. And that's frustrating because then it becomes like, why are you against solving? It's like, no, I just like the idea that we can actually evaluate these solutions, and maybe inertia is sometimes how you push things through, but it's also how you push war through. It's how you push bad things through, And so, well,
yeah,
in our fantasy land of facts and process and that. So, Justin, you have a pick?
I do. I am going through a little self-imposed experiment because there is a new service in the Oakland and Berkeley areas called Gig Cars, Gigcars. I've seen them on the streets, and then I saw a bunch of ads for them. But basically, it's similar to a service in Austin called Cars to Go, where they have just a bunch of cars out on the street, and you can look up via app where
like
one
a zip
is.
car?
You unlock it via an app. It is $2.50 a mile and 30 cents for a car to be parked. But effectively, it is kind of the final car replacement for me. So I'm going to try to use it instead of my car for the next week and just kind of get a sense of it. But if by the end of what my natural expenditures are between that and Uber, I think I might sell my car. And it's one of the first times in a while that I've had technology or a service like this kind of combine enough for me to change the way that I live my life and, be selling my 10-year-old car for whatever I can get for it. But I'm curious to see how it comes out.
Interesting. So this is like Zipcar, but
so not like Zipcar in that Zipcar is kind of more of a rental car, like a streamlined rental car, in that you pick it up from one place and you drop it off at another, sanctioned place. This is literally you just drive it, and as long as you are parking it in a place that does not turn over for 2 hours, you can just leave it on the street anywhere within their like little map of everything. But it's heavily centralized in my neighborhood, so I can pick it up. And for all the things that I use my car for now, which is primarily going to our office at Guts and Glory, which is a little ways out, now I can get it and do the mail and go to the post office and then drop the car off right by the post office if I want to walk home.
Interesting. I don't know if there's anything really to this whole card sharing sort of, future, guys, this whole economy of that. I don't think of that.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool because like they're all new cars, which is also nice. Like I can just get into a car and I feel like I'm
very cool. Let's know how that works out. My pick is the book by Tim Wu called The Attention Merchants. And it is a book that's an overview of the advertising industry and how that sort of came about. The idea of when our attention spans became something that were of a commodity. It deals when starting off with like the first newspapers that said, you know what, if we sell the newspaper at a loss, but we make up for it advertising, then that's a different model. And that became a very different model. When you were saying, hey, we're selling you the news, to, hey, we'll get people to read our papers and then we'll sell to advertisers who our customer base is. And it follows the journey of that to radio and early days of radio, and how the radio networks initially, all they ever aired was radio networks existed to sell radio sets. TV networks existed to sell TV sets. The idea that the network could be a major moneymaker, that was like kind of like not even sort of something that was on the radar. And then like, well, maybe the money's actually in the content people are consuming on these radios and TVs. And the networks had to be talked into. The first widely broadcast network radio show, networks had to be talked into carrying the show. They had Pepsodent came in and spent $1 million to do it, but the network's like, well, people don't want to listen to this episodic stuff. There's not really a future in episodic broadcasting that every week people tune in to hear some continuing story. But it's your money, fine, you want to spend it. And that's how the Amos and Andy show became the first widely broadcast show, which was a very racist show, a minstrel show, two white guys playing black people with, all the stereotypes and that. And the theme song was, I did not know this. Do you know what the theme song was for the Amos and Andy show? I don't know if you remember it, Brian, back when we listened to it and we recognized it.
The Gambler by Kenny Rogers. You got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em
No, that was their second choice. First choice was the theme song to the Amos and Andy show was the score to the movie Birth of a Nation.
Oh,
the very an amazing landmark in cinema, to be sure, but also a movie that glorifies the KKK. And so it's it's like Triumph the Will. Man, this movie's really well put together.
Well shot.
This is really evil. This is not turn out well for fans of this, for fans and people who are not fans of this movie. But anyhow, it starts from there. It goes into sort of that, and just talking about how at the point at which they realize, like, oh, advertising's the driving force for that, and sort of kind of the epiphany of like, oh, well, these mediums are really delivery mechanisms for advertising. The TV shows are just there to capture your attention. And you look at these patterns come up again. And we're not at the internet yet, but it's like, man, like, hey, the internet, this thing's really, really cool. How are we going to make money for it? People are going to spend time on it. It's like, it's attention. What's the biggest commodity there? What do we have a lot of? Attention. So let's sell the attention. And that's where Google made its money with AdWords. That's where Facebook made its money. Look at the biggest tech companies to come about in the last 20 years that you would see in the top 20 in the stock market, tech companies that aren't like business to business. Okay, Microsoft existed before, Apple existed before, Google and Facebook. What do they sell? Your attention. So
yeah,
right.
So it's a very interesting book. I'm enjoying it. It's very well researched, very thorough, and that's my pick. Is The Attention Merchants by Tim Wu.
Boom,
gentlemen. It's been weird.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Cool.
We're back.
Bri, I guess you're on your laptop now, or?
No, I'm on the iPad. I assume it sounds shitty.
Yeah. Do you want to try with the headphones thing again? Wait. You have your iPad has a headphone jack, right? Do you have the old headphone style headphones?
I have some sound canceling headphones. Hold on.
Okay. Do. And give me a little tap.
Hello.
I don't hear any tapping if you're tapping. Oh, hey, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So good? Question mark.
Better enough.
Better enough.
Yeah.
Okay. What if I do this? How's that?
I heard no change.
Okay. Well, then I'll put this back.
Ooh, getting dramatic, Andrew.
Forgot. Right before. So, Journey Quest. This is gonna be interesting to see where this goes, guys.
Oh my God.
Did I play something wrong when I came back? I know I was out for a bit of it.
No. Murdering yourself is fine, Brian.
Okay, good. Well, I mean, first of all, it was me as Lennon, an imposter, so...
No, Brian, you murdered yourself as Lennon. Yeah.
Yes. No, I murdered a person who happened to be genetically identical to me
But that guy was willing to be Lennon, in which case I don't feel bad about.
Oh. However you're going to slice that makes you feel better. That's fine. Who am I to judge?
Whoa, where'd you go, Bri? Oh.
What do you mean?
Your S was all effed.
Man, there's a weird buzzing I hear. You guys don't hear it?
Nope.
Is the noise canceling on?
Yeah, it is.
Maybe...
Try flipping it off, see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, if I turn everything off, then I just hear the inside of my own ears. Is that better?
You sounded fine to us.
We do not hear that buzz.
Right. Yeah, when I turn on the noise canceling headphones, I hear a buzz. Oh no.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've noticed the noise canceling can sometimes be super sensitive to like any other electromagnetic fields or whatever when they're close to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty. Oh, I was gonna check my email really quick. This is great. We call it dead air things.
Dead deer.
Coming this summer, dead air.
Huh. So the buzzing that I hear, like a ground loop feedback kind of thing, it goes away as long as I put my finger touching the copper wire that's exposed on this headphone thing. That's weird.
Hey, Andrew, if you could check your email, please.
Oh, God. More fan mail. I see nothing, bro. See nothing, Bryce. I see nothing.
You mean you see nothing?
Nothing? I see nothing. Unless you're Hotwire telling me about a 3-star Chicago hotel from $70.
I was. That's a really good deal. I just wanted to make sure you didn't miss out on the really good deal.
I can check my spam folder. Are you Are you Boost Virility? Are you Beat Diabetes? Are you Sherry's Berries?
I actually am Sherry's Berries is the thing. Of the Connecticut berries.
There's a thing from Bryce Castillo.
There's a thing.
All right, cool. Good. We'll use this.
Okay.
And I got a topic too, so this is good.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Alrighty, then I think we're ready to go. Everybody else good? We got our stuff good. Do you have a heart out, Jury, at the top of the hour?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Then, take it away in 3, 2.
Welcome to After Things. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Justin Robert Young.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's me.
And Brian, killer of VI Linen, Vladimir Aladdin, Lineman, Aladdin, Linen, Brian Brushwood, alternate universe Brushwood.
It's true.
Sorry.
I killed Aladdin. Just put that on my gravestone.
I was trying to say VI and then Aladdin at the same time, and it really sounded a lot like Aladdin.
What is it? Vladimir Ilyinich Ulyanov?
Yeah, something like that. And you murdered him. So that's what happened on Weird Things and Journey Quest. But
Spoiler. That's
neither here nor there. On After Things, this is the show where you guys send us in your questions and thoughts and, queries about developing stuff as a independent creator, an entrepreneur, whatever, and we give you our take on it. We're just a couple of guys trying to figure things out for ourselves, so don't take what we say as the gospel, because sometimes we're kind of idiots. So let's start off with this email from Fitz. It says, I know of a mailing list and other ways to self-promote yourself as a brand. All of you being entrepreneurs and how to promote yourself regularly, what's your suggestion to best promote the brand? Which is yourself or myself, to be particular? And if Jury says just keep writing, please Photoshop a ghost beard behind him. Thanks for your time, Fitz.
Fitz is awesome. He's here in the chat room now, but he'll periodically ask me my advice. I mean, God knows why he would want my advice as a writer. But he asked me about what he should do, and literally the answer every time is to keep writing. Like whatever you need to do to keep writing, keep doing it.
I'm going to put in my new take on things, which is think about the transmissibility of your idea or the content or what you're doing. I started writing novels 6 years ago. Some of those novels have sold really, really well. Some of those novels have done okay. They've all gotten good reviews. And some of the books I thought were great books didn't move as well as other ones. And I've tried to evaluate what that is. Part one, there is algorithmical magic. There's just that you sometimes you luck into things getting discovered in front of people, which is hard to control, but you can sort of steer for. The other factor I thought of when I started thinking about things in general, what are things that I told my friends, you should check this out? And they go, oh, okay, sounds cool, but I wasn't able to transmit that idea to them. And I had a perfect example because I was on the phone talking to my dad and, recommending like things on Netflix. And there's a TV show that I've recommended to several people. I don't think I think it's solid. It's an interesting show. It's a very interesting time period. But part of the problem with this TV show is the title of the show. It is not easy to remember. It's hard to articulate it. People have to ask you to repeat it a couple times. And the likelihood that they're going to forget that is super, super high. And that is Halt and Catch Fire. Which have either of you watched this show?
I've watched the first
subject matter that
I
would love
of it, and I love them.
Yeah. Brian, Justin?
No, I haven't. It's something that I would love, but I've just never gotten around to watching it.
Yeah, so the premise is that's about the computing industry. It starts off the early 1980s and sort of follows the birth of like a company in Texas trying to build their IBM clone. And, it loosely parallels real events, but they do their own. They have their kind of different figures. They have their kind of charismatic Steve Jobs figure. They've got the engineer type. They've got kind of the programmer hacker personalities. And it involves each year it kind of covers a different thing. So the season 2 was sort of about an online CompuServe type like network. Season 3, got into kind of like the late 80s as these things were becoming bigger. And then it ends. Well, I won't tell you where it ends. World Wide Web. So anyhow, it's a very interesting show. I think the problem is like the Cameron, the girl programmer character who's, start off kind of interesting. I think she's thoroughly unlikable in the show and that they don't realize how unlikable they've made her to be. And that's problematic for the show, I think. But ultimately, it's a neat show. The problem is communicating the show. The name one is Halt and Catch Fire, which is some archaic computer term I never heard of until the show came out. And then I try to describe, you should check out Halt and Catch Fire. Halt and what? Halt and this, and kind of like, never mind. Staying on AMC, maybe you might like it. Books. I've talked about this before. Harry Potter, part of the success, that was a book that got turned down like 40 times, but finally it caught on and it succeeded. Part of the reason was you can explain succinctly what it is. 10-year-old kid discovers he's a wizard, gets to go to a wizard school. 10-year-old kid has to fight this great evil wizard that's coming back. You can break it down into small, digestible chunks and pitch it to people. Twilight, high school girl finds out her boyfriend is a vampire. Like, ooh, these things are very easy to transmit. More complicated things can be more problematic. Sometimes an idea can have so much momentum, though, it'll carry over and carry through, or it gets into some sort of, you could have a sci-fi book, and if it gets picked up and promoted, back in the 1950s or 60s in analog or whatever, everybody's going to read it, and you'll get enough inertia that'll take over the fact that the name is hard to pronounce. A great movie that's actually getting a sequel, though, they renamed was Edge of Tomorrow, Kill Again, whatever, the Doug Liman, Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt movie.
Live, Die, Repeat.
Yeah. It went through multiple title names to the point that I still don't, when I have to go like, you should, it's called And I love the movie, and they renamed it multiple times after it even was released, trying to say this is what it's called. So now it's Edge of Tomorrow, which sounds like a Bond movie name, which is dumb, because you see right there, you look Edge of Tomorrow, you look at the poster.
The initial name was All You Need Is Kill.
The story, yeah. And you look at the poster. If you look at the poster on the IMDb page, and what is the first thing you see there?
Yeah,
Live, Die,
repeat in larger font than the title.
Yeah, so when it comes back to Fitz's question, if you're saying, okay, I'm writing, I know that, shut up, jury, shut up, jury. I know I need a mailing list to tell people what I want to do. Certainly making sure that people know about what you're doing is important. Being able to say, hey, new post up. I have this happen a lot of times. People are like, man, I didn't know you had a product. I'm like, I sent out an email, I did a Facebook ad, I put it on Twitter. What more do you need me to do? People still say, well, I want to know. And there's maybe solutions to that. Making sure people get the word out, but also just making it transmissible. That's why shorter content can be better, shorter, more succinct. People who do long think pieces, there's not a lot of that doesn't make its way around the web. Like shorter, more, oh, this is punchy, I like this. This is punchy, I like it. Shorter increases the number of people who read it, increases the likelihood people repeat it. Headlines that tell you what they're going to read. So much of our discussion online about blog posts and stuff, people are only reacting to the headline, which is problematic because you get into the comment section like, well, I think blah, blah, blah. Like, did you get past the first paragraph? So that's my thought.
Well, and there's some level of us that wants to blame the viewer for actually not reading the rest of it, but also it's not their job, right? And so, for example, on the Scam Stuff site, we're currently working with our team to explain that, and by we, I mean we and whatever. Like, it's important that every second somebody spends on the site not waste any of their time. Don't tell me a story where the big payoff is at the end. Don't bury the lead. Like, just get right to the point. This is what you care about. Here's a problem that you have. Here's a solution that we have. Here's the one-time only deal that we're offering for you. I don't know. I feel like people have a tendency to get too clever by half when they put stuff out there.
Agreed. I think that a lot of people who are aspiring bloggers or tech people, and I don't know what you're writing or what you do, but I think a lot of problems is they're saying the same thing everybody else is saying. Like my take on, like, I'm going to give you my take on the Nintendo Switch. Okay. I can go to Verge. I can go to a lot of places to get this, and other than it being your take, and I don't mean you personally, but other than being your take, what value are you presenting? Are you a game designer that can say, my take is I'll tell you about how hard the tools are to work with or whatever. So many people want to do this because they see other people doing it. But the problem is then you're not adding anything. You're competing with a thing that's already been doing it and doing it better. So you need to think about your take or your angle and whatnot. And it's easier. It's very easy to start with a particular point of view that's a very narrow point of view, but a narrow point of understanding on it, and then expand and much bigger as your audience grows than it is to try to appeal to everybody and try to build an audience.
And I think part of it in general is always just understanding that like Andrew said, you are, Brian made a point about people not reading the things. It ain't their job. That's right. It's yours. It's your job to make people care about you. And it's your job to understand that people create part of the happiness for people to read a blog or to listen to a podcast is regularity. Once you become attached to somebody's writing or somebody's voice, it hurts when it's not there, whether or not you realize it. Like, you don't, in your head, you're not like, oh man, it sucks, they're not there. But you begin to trust them a little bit less. You begin to trust them a little bit less if they're not there at moments that the reader thinks you should be there. So try to be as empathetic as possible to your readership, and think about what would delight them, what would make them happy that you were covering or exploring or dissecting. And just to go back one more time to Andrew's point, effort. It's the only currency on the internet. You can't make it anything else other than what it is, which is just putting in the time and the effort to research and present something.
And another thing too is I think that a mistake a lot of people make when they start something is they have no idea what the actual market for this is. I had a very good lesson in market share when I started writing magic books a billion years ago, because I had been told by two different people that the average magic book, hardcover book, would sell at least 300 units. That was the number of people who collected and would buy anything that came out to add to their collection. There were 300 people out there that did that. And that fluctuated. It was roughly 300. And that was actually to be a pretty stable number. Out of all the people that loved magic, of all the people that read magic magazines, all the people who bought stuff, 300, you could at least do 300 copies of something. So I built a publishing business entirely based upon breaking even at 300 units, because I knew if I could had a guarantee of moving 300 units, I did that. And that's why I never lost money with a book. And when DVDs and all that became out there, I expanded into that. People often say, I want to do a blog about my local community. Great. How many people live in your town? 18,000 people. Okay. What percentage of them will even read stuff and care? And it's not going to be 50. It's not going to be 40. It's not even going to be 1%. You're talking at a fraction, and you got to compete with everything else to do that. And a lot of times people say, I'm going to go do this. Like, okay, the number of people interested in this is very, very small, very, very small. There's a finite number of people here. 2, you're competing with everything else that's out there. And people often say, hey, I think I have a bigger, I think I want to do this thing, but yeah, maybe you got 30 people who will read you a week. Maybe that's the maximum number of people that are interested in that topic. I've seen that. I've had ideas and things I loved, and I'm like, this is just too obscure. This is just too narrow for what I want to do. Now I could take something that's slightly less narrow that might have sideways appeal and build out from there. But, that thing by itself, that might be it. So what is the market, And then, I've looked at, I've seen successes of people who start with, I'm going to cover one particular thing and I'll extend out there. Now, like Justin has been doing a thing covering books on politics, right? Now, that could be if Justin's writing reviews of political books and doing a blog that's on these reviews of political books, that could be a starting point to say, hey, I'm going to review all the latest books on politics. Anybody who covers politics, any blog or whatever like that, could look at that and go, oh, this is interesting. I need to check his reviews because I'll get a good recap of what this book is about. If Justin then said, I'm going to interject some commentary every now and then, the people who go there from the political books might be cool with that. They're like, oh, yeah, no, this is good. I've gotten out of some blogs, I don't need to mention, when they've done really, really good coverage of a topic and then they go off topic into politics. Because I'm like, they're like, man, and you know a lot about the Mac ecosystem, Apple culture. You're politically as ignorant as anybody else I know, and reading your articles about this is painful and makes me lose respect for you. So, not because I disagree with you, but because you just have fundamental lack of understanding the other points of view, whatever. I'm no longer going to go there, and that's a danger. So. But you can expand. Start with a thing you do well, expand out there, and that's a way to build your brand. Your brand is what you do, not what you say you do. And I'll give you an example of that. Is the thing that's been epiphany for me is Amazon's super successful. Jeff Bezos is on path to become the richest man in the world, right? Do you know what he defined the Amazon brand or what they were back in the 1990s? Anybody remember this?
Jeez. I would imagine he said, books on a river. That's why it's called Amazon.
Pretty much. It's customer service. He said Amazon's business model was we were in the customer service business, which meant that they said, how are we going to make our money? We're going to make our money by making people we deal with, interact with, happy. And our customers are going to be everybody. So that meant, well, if we're selling them books, we want to make them super happy. How do we make them happy? We give them a good selection. Then we give them a good price. We'll try to beat the best price, try to come close to it. We'll try to do that. Then we'll get the book to them as fast as we can. And then when you get the book or you get whatever you're not happy with it, we'll make it really easy to return. These are all these points that are critical to us in order to make money through customer service. And Amazon did that. Remember the competitors back then, Buy.com and these other people that tried to do it. And there was like, Barnes & Noble's getting into the book business, guys. You're doomed. You're doomed. What did Barnes & Noble know about online book delivery? Zero. What did Barnes & Noble know about customer service and stuff outside of their stores, which maybe didn't always have the best customer service? Zero. And that's why Barnes & Noble did not succeed in that market when everybody said, they're going to take over, they're going to dominate. They weren't in the right business. Amazon said, we're in the customer service business. Now I'll give you another example, though. A company can say, this is our business, but that ain't what they ended up doing because that's not where they made their money. Google. What did Google say their mantra was or their business was?
Don't be evil.
Information.
Yeah, don't be evil. Organizing the world's information.
Right.
All right, what's the profit model on that? Well, advertising. Your business is advertising, guys. You can say your job is to organize the world's information. We've talked about this before. What happened to Google Books? There's like 2 people on that now. What happened to some of these other really ambitious projects to organize? There ain't no money in that, so you didn't do it. You didn't pursue it the way you could have. There was a lot of money in selling advertising to people and doing highly targeted ads, so Google is the world's largest advertising company. They can call themselves whatever they want, but, we're not their customers. We're their inventory. We're the commodity. And that's, Microsoft said, Bill Gates says, I want to see Windows on every single computer. And he said, I'm going to get market share at a point where the product was easy and cheap to produce, and he could reduce the cost, whatever he needed to do. He could sell Windows licenses at $3 a pop and still make a profit. That's what they did, and that succeeded when that was critical important. Apple said, we're going to make hardware, we're going to make software. Initially, that was great. In the 90s, when hardware prices fell a lot, Apple suffered a lot. But then when hardware prices sort of kind of plateaued and Apple said, well, we can improve the quality and we can provide a layer of service to it, then Apple succeeded. And that's, and as a brand, news agencies and all this, newspapers run into this problem because our business is giving people the news. No, your business is selling advertising. Your business is selling advertising. And now the New York Times is trying to shift to a subscription model. And they're looking like they're having some success, but they're a shadow of themselves when they were the only game in town when it came to advertising. So what is your business? That comes down to it. So anything to add?
So so where do we universalize this as far as like folks at home, as far as the takeaway? Well, like what's the home lesson on this?
I think so. Let's go around and say, Brian, what is your business? Justin, what is your business? And I'll get into my business. Okay.
Man, I'll tell you what. My business is basically to sell, and this sounds really weird to say out loud. My business is to sell the possibility. I'm not going to say the fantasy because the fantasy would imply that it's not entirely possible for every single person. But my business is to sell the possibility of you being the most interesting person in the room, whether that is by knowing a bunch of card tricks, by knowing a bit about mind reading, whether it is by being the most informed person in the room when it comes to the changing world of cord cutting and watching what you want on Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Hulu and so on, whether it is feeling like you're one of the lucky ones who got to be in the room while you watched a guy eat fire, stick a nail in his eyes, do straitjacket escape, and so on. My whole business boils down to you are awesome and special. And I will go out of my way to empower you to be and feel like those things. And I hope you feel like throwing me some nickels as a result.
Okay, I'm gonna critique that.
Go for it.
And one of the ways that you can define to say what your real business is you can say, if X does not happen, do I still have a business? Okay, if advertisers still paid Google money, Google would still succeed even if nobody used their products. If advertisers paid Facebook money, Facebook would still succeed. And so they can say we're trying to do X, but as long as those people give you money, your business succeeds. A flower can say, man, my job is to be a rose. I need to be beautiful. I need to be loved. There ain't no sunlight. You ain't doing that. You do a couple businesses. Okay. Now those are the hooks. The hook, that's why you bring people in. But people can say, man, Brian empowers me. Brian does this. Brian does that. But if nobody pays for YouTube advertising, that part of the business don't exist.
Well, but I think that is a testament to why I'm so highly diversified.
Yes.
And specifically, like, there's a number of people who have reached out to me on Twitter saying like, hey, man, aren't you freaked out over the fact that YouTube is not paying this person, not paying that person? There was a random hiccup glitch where the King of Random site showed up as having been terminated because because some robot shut it down. And luckily it turned out to be a mistake and he is back up and running. But like the fear of that has me highly, highly, highly diversified. In the beginning, there was the stage show. And from the stage show begat the opportunity to reach out to more people through Scam School.
Well,
through Scam School.
Let me interrupt you for
Sure.
the stage. I mean, and again, your diversification is a great example to people like, hey, don't have this one thing because these platforms change and you can have the rug pulled out from you overnight. Your stage show, who was the consumer?
So it became college audiences, which was a very specific audience. I realized go ahead.
Who bought it?
College campus activities boards, a small group of 8 people who decided who would come to campus each year.
And that's the thing to get to is it's like, and they wanted, if you please the audience, obviously but that you realize, man, I have a great show. I can entertain people, but these people who are the ones writing the check, I have to get through their narrow minds, and they think they're experts on this stuff, but they're only having this position for 2 years, and they want to be these little lords and lordettes and stuff. And that's frustrating for a lot of people. It's like, my business is doing great shows. I do great shows. But actually, a big part of my business is I got to sell that group of people on this. And
that's the tough thing is people think that if they're a magician, and I'm sure you can extrapolate this to whatever it is you want to do creatively, people run into the mistake of thinking that the thing they create is the product. That is, it is the product, but that's not how you make your money. You make your money by selling the product. You are a salesman of a product of your own devising.
Yeah, and so you've taken each of these lessons and you've expanded on that. You looked at hey, I can only be in one place at one time performing for college audiences. If I do, let's say, Scam School, I can be in front of infinite number of people can watch this show and can do this. And so it's not like that show, like a live show that's done and it's gone forever. This is a show that lives on and you still make income from shows you did 10 years ago. Okay.
Correct.
Then you looked at, you said, okay, I've got an audience here, and I know this YouTube income is highly variable. I'm one quarter away from Google saying, let's decrease the payments we give out to people so we can increase our profitability, from saying, hey, my nut just got severely impacted. I need to diversify. What do I have? I have a large audience. So besides depending on advertising income, I have their attention. I can sell my own stuff, and I can do my own thing via scam stuff, right? So
right, and correct. Well, in the case of scam stuff, it was a complementary thing. What can I do that in no way negatively affects Scam School, but instead picks up all of the brand value that is being spilled over, because only so many people watching Scam School want to buy a domain at any given time. Yeah. So meanwhile, there's this general aura of positivity. How can I reach out to those people and figure out something that's worth it for them? And so that's where scam stuff comes from.
Yeah, you realize that the one advertiser that had the best fit and it made the most sense to capitalize on that audience was you, if you provided products and brand.
Right,
so,
which, by the way, was never my intention. When we started Scam School, it was like, hey, this will be fun. It'll help me get shows and so on. But instead, they reached this point where it's like, hey, man, all these advertisers, they're spending money just to get their message across. Here I am with an IP that I don't necessarily own, but I do, control. What if I figured out how to provide something that would be of value to everybody who watched, and it might make me a buck along the way? And it seems to have worked out pretty well.
So, Justin?
Yes.
In your various enterprises, how would you describe?
My business is, I would say, the way that I make my money primarily is through Patreon, which is through the shows. So, and then with sidelines for guest shows and the stickers and stuff like that and the card game. So, I don't know. Everything kind of drives through the idea of kind of being a community organizer.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, is that like you do shows that are niche shows that don't have huge amounts of audience, but the amount of revenue you generate from that is outsized because of the loyalty between that audience and you. That is very valuable for them to see this thing continue, and so they take it upon themselves to support and keep the thing going. You're selling your product to an audience. You're selling your product to an audience. You're not in an advertising business. You're not ad supported. Your ad dollars come. So that's the product you're selling is these things you do and people paying for that directly. It's on YouTube, but it's not an ad-based model. Yeah. And I guess my point of bringing these things up is that like we have several different examples of where Brian, in some cases, like one of the things that happened that caught people off guard was you get internet companies would say, okay, we have a lot of eyeballs. We have a lot of attention. What's our business? They say, okay, well, advertising. A lot of them went to the agency model and they said, okay, we're going to go to ad agencies and we're going to do $5 million campaigns and $10 million campaigns, which sounds kind of cool initially. But the problem is your business then becomes you have to keep hiring more and more ad people and cycle through them, because you're in the same trap that traditional media was in trying to come up with new campaigns. Google said, we're going to build a robot. You go to the robot and say, I want to spend $5. The robot helps you spend $5, and it tries to use that money as efficiently as possible. Where the ad agency model is, that ain't about it. They don't want it. They're not going to promise. They'll tell you they're going to give you efficiency, but they cannot count on efficiency because they're hugely inefficient. And that's why internet companies that were really dependent upon those ad agency models, like a lot of blogs and stuff, why they failed, because the problem was the number of, the value of attention kept falling faster than they could try to sell whatever inventory they had or raise the prices on inventory. So Facebook followed the Google model. We're going to sell, it's digital, just go in there, tell the robot what you want. It's the challenge of an ad model. And Brian, as his audience has increased and audience has grown, it says, okay, not just going to be dependent upon the ad model. I'm going to have these other models to do that. And Justin in this model of, hey, I'm going to do a niche thing, but I'm going to really cater to these people so much that they will pay for this thing to be there. They would rather it exist than not exist. That's what Weird Things does too.
Well,
yeah,
and that's one of those things where it's like there's no right or wrong answer. There's what you're comfortable with. And I would say that everything I've done has been driven on the fear. The moment I quit my day job in 1999, part of the reason I quit my day job is because I realized I was in a position that I could be fired by someone else for reasons that either were or were not justified. And that horrified me so much that my life's mission for the next 25 years has been to make sure I'm in a position that I have so many bosses that if any chunk of them fired me, it would be viewed as a momentary loss or as a specific downshift in revenue from one segment or the other. In general, it's allowed on the one hand, it has created in me this low grade constant terror that I'm not provided enough, that I'm not being honest enough, that I'm not sharing enough to the fan base. But on the other hand, it's also given me a real sense of security where when I have made mistakes, it's very rare that I can make any one mistake that will piss off 100% of my audience to the tune of stopping supporting me, whether through buying stuff, whether through supporting the advertisers, whether it's through watching the stuff and generating ad revenues or Patreon or whatever. And not that I'm on the hunt to go out and try to figure out a way to piss off that many people, but there does come a spiritual well-being from knowing that it's very unlikely that you could piss off that many people all at the same time.
If anybody can do it, though, Brian, I have faith in.
I'm working on it.
And I find myself with this question because I'll go, on one hand, I'll be like, man, my goal is to get a publisher to buy this book, Mm-hmm. And then after the fact, it's like, my goal is to get people to read this book. And on one hand, it's that. And then it's like, oh, my goal is to get these people to buy this option for this book. And then, you get into that. And then, our TV show, it's like, my goal is to sell this to if I can sell this show to a network, they'll pay me to do a series, And then it's like, well, the longer term is I need to get advertisers to pay for this show, and I need to make them feel they got to do it. I got to hit X number of numbers, or no. I mean, it's so many variables, and that's, get to the heart of one, how can you make money and how do you want to make your money? And both, Justin and Brian have done different things. Brian's done some stuff that was basically entirely ad supported, and then he's done stuff that is direct sales, and then he's done stuff that's Patreon supported. Justin's been doing broadcasting for years, but very little of, part of the income has come from ad sales, like direct ad buys, but not like direct YouTube stuff for the most part. Then you've done stuff that's customer, people paying for that. And then that happened with a Contender, is you launched another product that said, you launched a product that's like, hey, my name's on this product. I made this product. If you like me, you will like this.
Yeah. And as we will again on June 30th with Action News.
Yeah, and when you made money from blogging, it was because we did a niche, we did the magic niche, and we could go sell directly to, we knew who the advertisers or the people who were buying advertising. We didn't use Google AdWords or Google anything like that because we won't make enough from that. But we know we have a much higher value. I had people like, why don't you guys do Google AdWords? It's like, we're making thousands of dollars a month and not $6 a month off of that audience. Google AdWords undervalues that audience, and so that was for us was like, that would be dumb to do that, And that's sometimes it
was also the difference was the sweat equity of just getting out there and realizing that you can just go to the distributors. The distributors are going to list what magic tricks are coming out each week, and you email the creators because they're easy to find. They're all working magicians who have their emails out there publicly.
Yeah, we knew how to reach them. We knew what that market, so the advantage of a smaller market was approachable, and so our chances of getting a yes was very high compared to just cold calling and doing that in another market. So it depends, and it's if people want to do things but they don't understand how they're going to get fed doing them, and then they're not getting fed by it, and then they stop doing it, and sometimes it can take a long time, and that's been our big thing is perseverance. Persevere. Make your idea transmittable, make it very easy for people to say, this is great, check out what this person did. And, just understand how the business of this works. It just, I hear about a lot of things that, people like startups like, oh yeah, we want to aggregate like reviews, this or whatever. I'm like, how is that different than 1,000 other things? And maybe you're better, but that's a market where you look at like sites that get hundreds of thousands of viewers a month. If you're getting several 100,000 viewers, readers a month for your blog, you're still not going to pay your bills if you're using standard ad models. You're still not going to pay your bills.
Yep.
No. So.
Well, man, this goes back to something that we've talked about repeatedly, where it's like the fantasy that every artist wants to believe, whether you're a musician, a magician, an actor, a performer, an impressionist, a balloon artist, it doesn't matter. Everybody wants to believe that it is possible that they can just be the artist and somebody else will take care of the financials. And that is a lie. It is a fraud. It is not true. It has never been true. And the faster you realize that you are the captain of your own artistic starship, the happier you're going to be.
Yeah, you got to accept that. I mean, the side note is I get that every now and then people go, hey, I have an idea for a book. I'm like, that's great. And I'm like, why don't you write it? Like, I don't have the time, so it must not be a good idea. No, it's a great idea. Well, if you think it's a great idea, then you would write it, or will you quit? Will you take 2 weeks of vacation to go write it? No. All right. So you don't believe in it that much, and
what's funny is I don't think that's an indictment of laziness. I think when people say that, what they're saying is they believe it's a good idea, but they don't believe that it's possible for them to apply themselves for 2 to 5 weeks to write it. And as a result, they believe it in it enough that they want it to be out there in the world. So what they do is the next best thing, which is tell it to other people and wish that they'll do it.
Yeah, but it's like, would you pay if it's going to tell, like, would you pay somebody to go write this for you? Okay, so you're not that sure about the idea, but you're right. It's like coding projects. I would bother my friends like, hey, do you want to work on this thing? It could be really, really cool. Like, okay, you're asking me to spend 2 weeks of time on a project minimum, no pay. How much because my time costs you nothing, so you're happy to say go do this. But the corollary is going to give to we get that all the time. Like, yeah, I just want to be an artist and do this. Everybody wants to do that. And if you want, but if I had I get the magicians like, if I had a manager, yeah, that manager's managing more people who are worth more. That manager's out there representing somebody who's making money, not waiting for some lazy person to come along and say, hey, manage me.
No, yeah,
I'll
no one's
tell you
going to
what,
solve
man,
your
like-
problem. And even if you had somebody that was going to help you solve your problem, you are going to have to direct them exactly where you want to go and have a sense of what they are doing. Because the worst possible thing that you could have that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy is success when you have no idea how it's happening and there is somebody else that is involved financially. Like, that is... I mean, not only is that a quick way to kind of immediately nullify the financial success that you have, but also you don't have a clear path, kind of even spiritually or artistically, of what you're walking, you know, and what feels good and what feels bad. Like, there's just, you're in the woods, and I think it's that kind of stuff that I think drives like child actors crazy. Is that like there's all this stuff is happening around them and they have no idea really what it means or why it's there or what's normal or abnormal about it.
Yep. Gentlemen, let's bring this to a close so you guys can go do the shows and whatever you got going on. Any last minute picks?
Yeah, my pick is gonna be one that I will think of while Justin gives his pick.
Hey, Silicon Valley, it's back and it's great, and I love this season so far.
My pick is going to check out Halt and Catch Fire. I think that's interesting. And my pick, again, from Weird Things is The Attention Merchants by Tim Wu, which so far I'm really enjoying. So I would...
You know what? I'm going to give a double down high five to The Leftovers on HBO because I watched both the second episode of American Gods and the third season, third or fourth episode of Leftovers. And I understand one of them is one that I've been more, emotionally invested with for a longer time. But I read American Gods, and I'm going to say flat out, I think Leftovers, where it's at right now, is a more interesting story than where American Gods is.
Well, gentlemen, it's been after.
All right, guys, I gotta jump right on over. I will talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
All right.
Bye, Justin.
Bye, beautiful people. BRB.
Alrighty, thank you everybody for checking out Weird Things and After Things. Justin's gonna be everybody left. Justin's gonna be doing Hotline Monday, I'm sure, in a few minutes. So stick around, we'll host them. But in the meantime, also Quirkular's coming up in 2 hours. What's good? And then also music Monday music news is on diamondclub.tv. So lots of good stuff. Let's get a good song to go out to. Oh yeah, what's this? All right. But thank you guys for checking this out. We will talk to you later. Bye-bye.
I discovered broken dreams fix themselves when you're with me. New dimensions open up. Insanity can't get enough. I won't lie to you. I lose my mind. Every time my tongue gets tied, I won't lie to you. I lose my mind. Every time my tongue gets tied to you. Tied to you.